session of the 20th Congress is hereby called to order. Senator Amy R. Marcos will lead the chamber in prayer.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. President. Panginoon, minsan mo nang hinayaang bumaha sa daigdig. Lumikha ng arko ang iyong hinirang upang mailigtas ang magtataguyod ng iyong salita at kabutihan. Isinalba mo ang sangkatauhan upang magsimula muli. Binigyan mo ng pag-asa at pagkakataon ang tao. Hinugasan mo ang mundo at tinangay ang kasalanan nito. Ang bahang iyon ay pinagkaloob mo rin sa Pilipinas. Hindi para pasakitan ng Pilipino, kundi para tumambad ang katotohanan. Panginoon, gawin mo pong malaking bangka ang Senado. Arko ng bawat Pilipino. Isang bangkang may matibay na pundasyon at tiyak na direksyon. Katapatan sa bayan at mabilis na pagkilos sa katarungan. Hindi makakausad ang bansa kundi tatapusin ang mga pagdinig kahit may ayaw marinig. Ikulong na kasi ang mga dapat ikulong dahil ito lamang ang papawi sa galit ng taong bayan. Pagtibayin niyo po ang demokrasya at hayaang magsalita ang bawat mamayan, bawat senador. Dahil ang kapangyarihang bigay ninyo at ng bayan ay pantay-pantay at walang mas nakakataas. Bigyan niyo po ng pag-unawa ang aming samahan na kung mabilis matapos ang bangungot ng flood control ay mas mabilis namin masosolusyonan ang malalim ng problema ng bansa, ang pagkain at presyong di naabot kaya ng sinuman, kuryente, kawalan ng trabaho ng iba't ibang mamayan. At Panginoon, ang kahit anong bangka ay lulubog kung kami mismo ang bubutas nito. Naway pangalagaan namin ang isa't isa bilang isang buong institusyon, proteksyonan at hindi ipagkanulo, bigyan ng pagkakataon at huwag busalan. Magkakaiba man ang layag, ay iisa lamang ang direksyon ng pagsagwan na mapunta ang bayan sa inyong mapagpalang gabay. Hinihiling po namin ito alang-alang sa mga Pilipinong nag-alay ng buhay sa bawat kalamidad at sa sigalot na lumiliyab na muli sa Mindanao. Naway, maisapuso naming mga senador na para sa kanila ang bawat desisyon at aksyon na aming gagawin. Kaawaan sana tayo ng Panginoon. Amen.
The Secretary will please call the roll.
Roll call of members. The Honorable Senator Aquino, Senator Cayetano Alan, Senator Cayetano Pia, Senator De La Rosa, Senator Ejercito, Senator Escudero, Senator Estrada, Senator Gatchalian, Senator Go, Senator Ontiveros, Senator Lacson, Senator Lapid, Senator Legarda, Senator Marcoleta, Senator Marcos, Senator Padilla, Senator Pangilinan, Senator Tulfo Erwin, Senator Tulfo Rafi, Senator Villanueva, Senator Villar Camille, Senator Villar Mark, Senator Zubiri. The Senate President is present.
With 21 senators present, the chair declares, it's 22. With 22 senators present, the chair declares the presence of a quorum.
Thank you.
Majority Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that we dispense with the reading of the journal of the 37th session, Monday, January 26, and consider the same as approved. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, the journal is approved.
Mr. President, I move to proceed with the reference of business.
Secretary will proceed with the reference of business.
Resolutions. Resolution 207, resolution honoring and commending Ms. Rodora Alcaraz for her extraordinary heroism, selflessness, and courage in saving her employer's infant child and elderly mother during the deadly Hong Kong fire, and for exemplifying the noble character and sacrifice of Filipino overseas workers by Senator Lapid.
Referred to the Committee on Rules.
208, resolution honoring the life and legacy of Rosa Rosal, celebrated Filipina actress and humanitarian, and expressing the profound condolences of the Senate of the Philippines to her family and loved ones by Senator Lapid.
Referred to the Committee on Rules.
209, resolution directing the Committee on Justice to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation to review and recommend revisions to the 2015 Omnibus Rules of Procedure of the Bureau of Immigration, particularly on summary deportation orders, in light of the reported rise of high-profile illegal immigrants in the Philippines and for other purposes by Senator Tulfo R.
Referred to the Committee on Justice and Human Rights.
210, resolution commending and congratulating the Philippine contingent to the 33rd Southeast Asian Games in Thailand for ably representing the country and for winning 50 gold, 73 silver, and 154 bronze medals by Senator Estrada.
To the Committee on Rules.
211, commending and congratulating Team Philippines and the members of the Philippine delegation who have competed and won medals, placing the country as the 6th overall champion in the 33rd edition of the Southeast Asian Games held in Thailand by Senator Go.
To the Committee on Rules.
212, commending and congratulating Mazel Paris Aligado and Jericho Francisco Jr. for winning gold medals in extreme skateboarding at the 33rd Southeast Asian Games by Senator Go.
To the Committee on Rules.
213, commending and congratulating the Philippine men's and women's softball teams for winning gold medals at the 33rd Southeast Asian Games held in Thailand by Senator Go.
Committee on Rules.
214, commending and congratulating the Philippine women's swimming team for bringing home the gold medal in the women's 4x100 meters freestyle relay event at the 2025 Southeast Asian Games held in Thailand by Senator Go.
To the Committee on Rules.
215, commending and congratulating Justine Macario and Takiana Mangin for their gold medal victories in Taekwondo at the 33rd Southeast Asian Games by Senator Go.
To the Committee on Rules.
216, commending and congratulating Filipina tennis ace Alexandra Alex Ayala for capturing the gold medal in women's tennis singles at the 2025 Southeast Asian Games held in Thailand by Senator Go.
To the Committee on Rules.
217, commending and congratulating the Philippine triathlon team for sweeping all 3 gold medals in the women's, men's, and mixed relay events at the 2025 Southeast Asian Games by Senator Go.
To the Committee on Rules.
218, commending and congratulating the Elrin Ando for winning the gold medal in women's 63-kilogram weightlifting event at the 33rd Southeast Asian Games held in Thailand by Senator Go.
To the Committee on Rules.
219, commending and congratulating Denver John Castillo for bringing home the gold medal in the men's under-19 windsurfing event at the 2025 Southeast Asian Games held in Thailand by Senator Go.
To the Committee on Rules.
220, commending and congratulating Gabriel Thomas Dinet for capturing the gold medal in the men's wrestling event at the 2025 Southeast Asian Games held in Thailand by Senator Go.
To the Committee on Rules.
221, commending and congratulating Agatha Wong and Jones in so far winning gold medals in Wushu at the 2025 Southeast Asian Games held in Thailand by Senator Go.
To the Committee on Rules.
222, commending and congratulating the Philippines men's baseball team for winning the gold medal at the 33rd Southeast Asian Games in Thailand by Senator Go.
To the Committee on Rules.
223, commending and congratulating the Philippine men's and women's Gilas basketball team for winning the gold medals at the 33rd Southeast Asian Games in Thailand by Senator Go.
To the Committee on Rules.
224, commending and congratulating the Philippine women's beach volleyball team, Alas Pilipinas, for winning the country's first ever gold medal in women's beach volleyball at the Southeast Asian Games held in Thailand by Senator Go.
To the Committee on Rules.
225, commending and congratulating the Philippine men's national bowling team for capturing the gold medal in the 2025 Southeast Asian Games held in Thailand by Senator Go.
To the Committee on Rules.
226, commending and congratulating Yumir Marshall for capturing the gold medal in the men's 80-kilogram boxing event at the 2025 Southeast Asian Games held in Thailand by Senator Go.
To the Committee on Rules.
227, commending and congratulating Filipino athletes John Cabang Tolentino, Joquet de los Santos, Hossein Loraliana, Naomi Cesar, and EJ Obiana for bagging the gold medal in their respective athletic events at the 2025 Southeast Asian Games held in Thailand by Senator
To
Go.
the Committee on Rules.
228, commending and congratulating Philippine men's esports Cebol team for capturing the gold medal in Mobile Legends Bangbang Esports event at the 2025 Southeast Asian Games held in Thailand by Senator Go.
To the Committee on Rules.
229, commending and congratulating the Philippine women's football team for winning the country's first ever gold medal in women's football at the Southeast Asian Games held in Thailand by Senator Go.
To the Committee on Rules.
230, commending and congratulating Aliyah Finegan, John Ivan de la Cruz, and Jasmine Althea Ramilo for their exemplary performance and gold medal victories in gymnastics at the 33rd Southeast Asian Games by Senator Go.
The Committee on Rules.
231, commending and congratulating Peter Gross-Close for his outstanding performance and for winning the gold medal in the ice skating event at the 2025 Southeast Asian Games held in Thailand by Senator Go.
The Committee on Rules.
232, commending and congratulating Dean Michael Rojas and Kimberly Ann Custodio for their gold medal victories in Jiu-Jitsu at the 33rd Southeast Asian Games by Senator Go.
To the Committee on Rules.
233, commending and congratulating the Philippine Judo team and Chino C for capturing the gold medal in their respective judo events at the 2025 Southeast Asian Games held in Thailand by Senator Go.
To the Committee on Rules.
234, commending and congratulating Zara Bon as for winning the gold medal in the women's kickboxing event at the 33rd Southeast Asian Games by Senator Go.
To the Committee on Rules.
235, commending and congratulating Filipino athletes Rolly Nathaniel, Edsel Gino, Erin Maternicor, and Genesis Pible for bagging the gold medal in their respective shooting events at the 2025 Southeast Asian Games held in Thailand by Senator Go.
Committee on Rules.
236, commending and congratulating Joanny Del Gaco and Christine Paraon for capturing the gold medal in rowing at the 2025 Southeast Asian Games held in Thailand by Senator Go.
Committee on Rules.
237, commending and congratulating Islay Erica Bomogao and LJ Rafael Yasay for their gold medal victories in Muay Thai at the 33rd Southeast Asian Games by Senator Go.
The Committee on Rules.
238, commending and congratulating Filipino athletes Melvin Sakay, Samuel German, and Michael Ver Anton Kumaling for bagging the gold medal in their respective modern pentathlon events at the 2025 Southeast Asian Games in Thailand by Senator Go.
To the Committee on Rules.
Congratulating and commending the Philippine delegation for placing sixth and bringing pride and honor to the country in the 2025 33rd Southeast Asian SEA Games by Senator Cayetano P.
To the Committee on Rules.
240, congratulating and commending Filipino swimmer Kyla Noel Sanchez for her extraordinary 8-medal haul in the swimming events of the 2025 33rd Southeast Asian SEA Games in Thailand by Senator Cayetano P.
To the Committee on Rules.
241, congratulating and commending Filipino tennis player Alexandra Alex Maniego Ayala for her historic gold medal triumph in the 33rd Southeast Asian SEA Games, ending the nation's 26-year championship drought in women's single tennis by Senator Cayetano P.
To the Committee on Rules.
242, congratulating and commending the Philippine women's national football team, the Filipinas, for historically winning the country's first gold medal in women's football at the 2025 33rd Southeast Asian SEA Games in Thailand by Senator Cayetano P.
Referred to the Committee on Rules.
243, directing the appropriate Senate committee to conduct a review of Republic Act Number 9513, otherwise known as the Renewable Energy Act of 2008, and related policies with the end in view of strengthening the Philippines' renewable energy regime, addressing structural and regulatory bottlenecks hindering clean energy development, and drawing policy insights from the renewable energy model of Iceland, particularly in geothermal and hydropower development by Senator Padilla.
Referred to the Committee on Energy.
244, directing the appropriate Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation into the compliance of sanitary landfills with RA number 9003, otherwise known as the Ecological Solid Waste Management Act of 2000, as well as other applicable laws, rules, and regulations, and to determine the adequacy of existing laws in addressing the growing volume of waste by Senator Marcos.
Referred to the Committee on Environment.
245, congratulating and commending Alizon Ali Ruiz for her historic feat as the first Filipina open water swimmer to complete the 23-kilometer Bohol to Cebu Channel by Senator Cayetano P.
The Committee on Rules.
246, commending and congratulating Philippine men's and women's softball teams for winning gold medals in the 33rd Southeast Asian Games in Thailand by Senator Estrada.
The Committee on Rules.
247, commending and congratulating the Philippine women's football team for winning the historic first gold medal in football in the 2025 Southeast Asian Games in Thailand by Senator Estrada.
The Committee on Rules.
248, commending and congratulating the Gilas Pilipinas men's and women's basketball team for winning gold medals in the 33rd Southeast Asian Games held in Thailand by Senator Estrada.
To the Committee on Rules.
249, commending and congratulating the Alas Pilipinas women's beach volleyball team for winning the country's first ever gold medal in the sport in the 2025 Southeast Asian Games in Thailand by Senator Estrada.
To the Committee on Rules. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, before we move towards our agenda, we'd just like to greet visitors here in the Senate with us today. We have Mayor Glenda Aguilar of Caramoran, Catanduanes. We have, of course, the education officials are here. Secretary Sani Angara, Yusek Fatima Panuntongan, Yusek Willie Cabral, OIC Yusek Carmela Oracion, OIC Yusek Edson Byron C., and Executive Director Jenny Hoxon. I believe they're here to present to us the EDCOM final report.
Right,
We also
Yes,
yes,
oh, go ahead. Proceed.
yes. Thank you, Mr. President. We also have a guest of Senator Pangilinan and Senator Bamakino, League of Organic Agriculture Municipalities headed by Mayor Roel Molina and Councilor Lorenzo Sumuyong, and former Congressman Lawrence Waknang from Kalinga. And we also have with us from Bao Camarines Sur, Vice Mayor Jonathan Cugahon, and Board Member Nadia Ong, First District of Northern Samar, guest of Senator Win Gatchalian. May we recognize them, Mr. President? Congrats and welcome them to the Senate.
Thank you. We welcome all our guests to the Senate and the former Chairman of Finance, Secretary Sani Angara, and earlier the former Senate President, Coco Pimentel, was with us. So we welcome all of them back to the Senate this afternoon. Thank you, Majority Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, maybe we can ask for a minute suspension so that I believe they're greeting the former colleague. Just a 1 minute.
Session suspended.
I move for the additional
Sorry,
reference
Leader.
of business, Mr. President.
Yes,
Thank
the
you.
additional reference of business, Secretary will proceed.
Bills on first reading. Senate Bill number 1667, an act amending Republic Act number 3591 as amended and other related laws to enhance the liquidation framework for banks and banking institutions and to strengthen the independence, authority, and financial capability of the Philippine Deposit Insurance Corporation and for other purposes by Senator Soto III.
Approved. I mean, referred to the Committee on Banks, Government Corporations, and Ways and Means.
1668, an act mandating the use of health rating system on the labels of packaged food products by Senator Tulfo R.
Referred to Committees on Health and Trade.
1669, an act defining and prohibiting overcapacity or overloading in public transportation, prescribing stiffer penalties therefore and for other purposes by Senator Tulfo R.
Referred to the Committee on Public Services.
1670, an act prohibiting the publication and proliferation of false information or fake news, establishing measures for fact-checking and platform accountability, and prescribing penalties therefore by Senator Tulfo R.
Referred to the Committee on Public Information.
1671, an act mandating and institutionalizing rollover data allocation schemes and providing for penalties by Senator Tulfo R.
Referred to the Committee on Public Services.
Resolutions. Resolution 250, directing the appropriate Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the illicit trade of tobacco products as well as the alleged involvement of government security forces in such illegal activities by Senator Gatchalian.
To the Committees on Ways and Means and Public Order.
251, directing the Senate Committee on Public Services to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the rising...
Before you proceed, yes, Senator Pangilinan, what is your pleasure?
Yes, may we likewise request that the
250.
earlier resolution on smuggling, tobacco smuggling, be
Tobacco
referred
smuggling.
secondarily?
May we recall the
The referral was
Senate Bill or Senate Resolution?
Senate Resolution 250.
250. It's referred to the Ways and Means and Public Order. You want it referred to?
Likewise to the Committee on Agriculture. Tobacco actually is an agriculture product, but of course the
The Ways and Means.
final packaged
Yes,
processed product are cigarettes.
Well, yes, we will allow that because the third, it becomes the third, but it's the Committee on Ways and Means, so it is allowed by the rules.
Yes,
As
thank
long
you.
as it's either the Ways and Means or Finance, then we can accept a referral to more than two
Yes.
committees.
We've done it before.
Yeah, we've done it, yes. All right.
Additional.
Thank you, Mr. President.
We may proceed, and that is referred to the Committee on Agriculture as well.
251, resolution directing the Senate Committee on Public Services to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the rising incidence of pedestrian-related road accidents and the effectiveness of existing pedestrian infrastructure, traffic management, and safety measures to ensure the protection of commuting public by Senator Tulfo R.
To the Committees on Public Services and Public Works.
252, resolution directing the Committee on Basic Education to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation into the private-public partnership as a key strategy to address classroom congestion in the country by Senator Aquino.
Referred to the Committee on Basic Education.
253, directing the Committee on Science and Technology to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation into the challenges brought on by rapid technological advancements in the information technology business process management industry by Senator Aquino.
To the Committees on Science and Technology and Labor.
254, directing the Senate Committee on Urban Planning, Housing, and Resettlement to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation into the continuing housing insecurity and threats of displacement faced by urban poor communities and the implementation of government housing and resettlement policies by Senator Aquino.
Referred to the Committee on Urban Planning, Housing, and Resettlement.
255, congratulating and commending the Philippine team and their coaching staff for their exceptional performance at the 33rd Southeast Asian Games, winning 50 gold medals, 73 silver medals, and 154 bronze medals by Senator Villanueva.
To the Committee on Rules.
256, resolution expressing the sense of the Senate in condemning recent public statements issued by the Embassy of the of the People's Republic of China concerning Philippine officials and institutions, and affirming the right of the Republic of the Philippines to assert its sovereign rights in accordance with international law, introduced by Senators Pangilinan, Soto III, Lacson, Zubiri, Tulfo E., Hontiveros, Tulfo R., Gatchalian, Legarda, Ejercito, Aquino, Estrada, Lapid, Villar C., and Villar M.
Referred to the Committee on Rules. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that we consider PS Resolution number 256. This is a resolution authored by Senator Pangilinan and several other colleagues. I'd like to ask, I so move, Mr. President, and then we can recognize.
Any objection? Hearing none, the consideration of Senate Resolution 256 is in order.
May I recognize the Minority Floor Leader, Mr. President.
Minority Leader is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Magandang hapon po. Sir President, napaka-importante nung resolution na to, hindi lang dahil sa issue sa West Philippine Sea, but also because of many other issues, our economic ties, people-to-people ties, our OFWs in Hong Kong, in mainland China, in Macau. That's why the minority, through myself, wrote a letter to the majority leader and yourself for your consideration po, na rather than adopting the resolution, we call a committee hearing. I think napakalalim po ng issue na to, and it will be good for us and the public na malaman talaga natin kung anong talagang sinabi ni Commodore Tariela at ano yung palitan ng kuro-kuro. Having said that, while it's under consideration, I'd like to thank you and the majority leader for allowing na mag-sponsorship muna today. And it was a tradition in the 19th Congress that it's not a rule, it's a tradition na after the sponsorship, you give everyone a day or two before we go to interpellation and adoption. But in that day or two, if the majority would see it fit to call a hearing rather than going straight to interpellation, that would be in my view, best. But again, Mr. President, we rule by what is the pleasure of the majority. So we will submit sa wisdom of the majority. But may I put that on record na baka maganda na magkaroon tayo ng hearing about this issue. Thank you, Mr. President.
We will, of course, seriously consider the recommendation of the Minority Leader.
Thank you very
Right.
much, Mr. President. Mr.
Well,
President,
just for the record, we have indeed made it a practice that when a bill is sponsored, we give it time for interpellations, a day or two thereafter. In the case of resolutions, usually we pass it the same day or after sponsorship. But in case of controversial resolutions or bills, we do give it some time. So I think the request is
reasonable.
quite in order. Yeah,
Thank you,
so
Mr. President.
Majority Leader.
Therefore, I move for the previous motion and ask the Secretary to read the title of the measure. Ayun na. Ba-
After na siguro, yeah.
Maybe we can ask. Yes, but we need to ask the
It's already
Secretary to
on the
read the
floor.
title of the
It's
measure.
already considered. We asked the Secretary to read the title of the measure and ask the sponsor to
Yes, so we can recognize the
deliver
sponsor,
sponsorship
Senator
speech.
Pangilinan, after he reads the title of the measure.
Yes, the
Because I did not
Secretary
read
is
the title of the
recognized.
measure earlier, Mr. President. My apologies.
Resolution expressing the sense of the Senate in condemning recent public statements issued by the Embassy of the People's Republic of China concerning Philippine officials and institutions, and affirming the right of the Republic of the Philippines to assert its sovereign rights in accordance with international law.
Right, Senator Francis Pangilinan is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Majority Leader. Thank you, dear colleagues. Before we begin our sponsorship, we would like to thank the good Minority Leader for his earlier manifestation. And we too share in the earlier manifestation of the Senate President that given the controversies behind this resolution, we have no objection as to allowing our colleagues time to interpellate or perhaps even bring the matter to a Senate hearing after we have sponsored it and before adopting it, Mr. President. Mr. President, dear colleagues, it is my honor to sponsor and principally author proposed Senate Resolution number 256, together with Senate President Tito Soto, Vicente Soto III, Senate Pro Tempore Ping Lacson, Majority Leader Mig Zubiri, Senators Erwin and Rafi Tulfo, Risa Ontiveros, Win Gatchalian, Lauren Legarda, JV Ejercito, Bam Aquino, Jinggoy Estrada, Lito Lapid, Camille, and Mark Villar. May we also place on record that while they have affixed their signatures to this resolution, this does not mean that those who did not affix their signatures are objecting to this resolution. Precisely why, ultimately, in the end, it is when we move to call for a vote on this resolution that there we will determine who among our colleagues will support it or not. Introducing this measure does not mean that those who did not introduce this measure are opposed to this measure. Just for the record, Mr. President. Mr. President, dear colleagues, our Constitution mandates us to protect the Republic's sovereignty, territorial integrity, political independence, and dignity. In fulfilling this mandate, when we senators, representatives, the Coast Guard, or any public official who swore an oath speak on the West Philippine Sea and on the arbitral award, we are not merely expressing our opinions. We are carrying out our solemn duty to uphold and defend the Constitution, to defend the nation, and uphold the rule of law. Recently, an official of the Chinese embassy issued public statements in undiplomatic and disrespectful language, directly attacking incumbent members of Congress, including myself, for positions we took in defense of Philippine sovereignty and maritime rights. We took because we were upholding and defending the Constitution. The statements crossed the line from legitimate expression of a foreign state's views into interference in our domestic democratic debate. By adopting this resolution, the Senate tells China and the world that this institution will not be cowed, that this institution will defend our nation's sovereignty, that this institution will defend and uphold our Constitution as we swore to defend and uphold the Constitution. That we stand as one in saying, no foreign mission may dictate what Filipino senators or what Philippine senators can or cannot say in the lawful performance of their official duties. We may hold differing views on many matters, yet in this, we must stand together. We uphold our officials when they speak on behalf of our nation, and we safeguard our institutions when they are disparaged by outsiders. Second, this resolution is addressed to our own Department of Foreign Affairs. We acknowledge that the DFA last night issued a statement expressing serious concerns over the escalating exchanges and has made, quote, firm representations to the Chinese side. This action responds directly to our call in the whereas clauses of this resolution that the DFA engage in the government of the People's Republic of China, quote, in accordance with international law and established principles of state relations, end of quote. But we must also note, while China has summoned our ambassador in Beijing over remarks made by Philippine officials at home, it is their embassy that has publicly disparaged our legislators, our officials of the armed forces, our officials of the Coast Guard, and questioned our motives, sought to restrict what we say in our territory. That imbalance must not be allowed. It is incumbent upon the DFA to protect the country's sovereign rights and, standing in the community of nations, do more, go further. Third, our resolution addresses China's embassy in Manila. We know this pattern. The harsh public statements against Philippine officials are part of a wider strategy to harass and to intimidate those who defend our maritime rights, to discredit our legal victory before the arbitral tribunal under UNCLOS and to reverse the reality that their 9-dash line claim an absurd position of claiming 90% of the West Philippine Sea and the South China Sea, or 500,000 square kilometers of our exclusive economic zone. We cannot allow this to pass. At sea, this strategy manifests as dangerous maneuvers, water cannon attacks, ramming and blockades against our vessels, and attacking our fishermen, harassing them in the West Philippine Sea. In words, it manifests as propaganda, disinformation, and now direct attacks against senators, Coast Guard officers, and other public servants. We know their goal: to make the Philippines doubt itself, to make the international community doubt the rulings, to employ the divide and rule strategy by dividing our people and making our people fearful, and to pressure us into accepting so-called arrangements that quietly erode what we lawfully possess. So we say this with firmness, but without hatred. This is not the job of a diplomatic mission. The role of a diplomatic mission is, above all, to practice diplomacy, to assist nations in overcoming disputes, to clarify and to bridge differences. It is not to provoke, not to disparage, and certainly not to insult and threaten those who speak for their country. Despite everything, it is with optimism that we expect that the Embassy of China to return to that proper role. The arbitral award will not disappear. The 9-dash line has been rejected. That reality cannot be reversed by trolling, by insults, or by pressure. Accept that the international law, particularly the UNCLOS, of which China is a signatory to, applies to all member states, that all parties need to work toward mechanisms that respect every claimant's country's sovereign rights and legitimate interests. We also thank the international community for their steadfast support of the rule of law, affirming the arbitral award and the Philippines' sovereign rights, as well as rights over our exclusive economic zone, for consistently calling out China on its escalating aggressive behavior in the West Philippine Sea. Pero higit sa lahat, ang resolusyon na ito ay para sa buong sambayanan. Sa ating mga mangingisda na naapektuhan, tuwing nagsasalita kami sa bulwagang ito tungkol sa ating karapatan sa ilalim ng pandaigdigang batas, kayo ang aming ipinagtatanggol. Pinagtatanggol ang karapatan ninyong mangisda ng malaya sa ating karagatan ng walang takot. Sa ating Coast Guard at Armed Forces, kasama ninyo ang Senado sa nananinindigan. Saludo kami sa inyong tapang at hindi namin kayo pababayaan. At sa lahat ng ating mga kababayan, lalo na sa mga kabataan, mahalaga ang ating relasyon sa China, pero sa ating kapayapaan, sa presyo ng pagkain, sa trabaho, kaya naman batas at diplomasya ang dapat pinipilit ipairal. Pero alam nating hindi pag-aatubili ang sagot sa mga bully. Hindi nabibili ng pananahimik ang kapayapaan at hindi nagtataguyod ang batas ng pag-aamo-amo. Respeto, paggalang, yan ang pinakamahusay na sandigan ng isang matatag at maayos na relasyon ng dalawang mga bansa. Ito ang gustong tiyakin ng resolusyon na ito. But beyond this resolution, we propose a way forward. As this year's chair of ASEAN, the Philippines has the opportunity to help conclude a rule-based, fair, workable, and lateralized mechanism on the conduct of parties in the South China Sea. We believe that such code of conduct be firmly anchored in international law, including UNCLOS and the principles reflected in the arbitral award. We ask our neighbors, partners, and allies, support the Philippines initiative, support ASEAN's effort to support a region where disputes are managed by law and dialogue, not by insults, bullying, force, or threats. Ngayon, sa panahong tumitindi ang pandaigdigang tensyon, sinisiguro ko magkakasangga tayo. Senado, DFA, Armed Forces of the Philippines, DND, Coast Guard, BIFAR, buong sambayanang Pilipinas, magkasangga tayo laban sa pangiinsulto, laban sa pagbabangga, sa pagwawater cannon at pakikipaghabulan sa ating mga mangingisda at sundalo. Iisa tayo bilang isang republika na nananindigan para sa ating mga karapatan at dignidad. Mr. President, colleagues, for all these reasons, I respectfully urge the adoption of Senate Resolution number 256. Maraming salamat.
Majority Leader.
Mr. President, we have several of our colleagues who want to co-sponsor the measure, namely Senator Jinggoy Estrada, Senator Erwin Tulfo, and Senator J.V. Ejercito. May we recognize Senator Jinggoy Ejercito for his sponsorship?
Senator Jingo Estrada is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, dear colleagues, I rise to co-sponsor a resolution expressing the sense of the Senate to condemn the unacceptable remarks of the Chinese Embassy in Manila against our Philippine officials with regard to the West Philippine Sea. I pose this question: what is the business of Chinese embassy officials criticizing our public officials and even calling them names, branding senators as helpers of Philippine Coast Guard Commodore J. Tariela in defending our rights in the West Philippine Sea because, as they claim, Commodore Tariela can't win over the argument. Hindi man ako sang-ayon sa naging gawin ni Commodore Tariela, ngunit hindi ito sapat na dahilan upang pakialaman ng Chinese Embassy ang internal affairs at soberenya ng ating bansa. This is not only an assault against individual senators, but an affront to the Philippine Senate as an institution. This representation joins the chorus in strongly condemning the pronouncements of the Chinese Embassy in Manila against our public officials. We should not just let this slide. There is no argument to begin with. The 2016 Arbitral Award is final and binding. Atin ang West Philippine Sea. This is all part of their tactics. They are looking to scare, coerce, and intimidate their neighbors to pursue their wild imaginary claims over our territories. Even after an arbitral ruling delivered a unanimous and enduring decision in 2016, firmly asserting that the Philippines has a full exclusive economic zone in the West Philippine Sea, invalidating China's claim to almost 80% of the Philippines' EEZ. Both China and the Philippines, pursuant to their treaty obligations under the UNCLOS, are legally bound to comply with this decision. As your former chairperson of the Senate Committee on National Defense and Security, Peace, Unification, and Reconciliation, my position on the West Philippine Sea has always been consistent with the position of the Philippine government under President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. The UNCLOS and the Arbitral Award continue to be the foundation of our actions and policies on the West Philippine Sea. But China had no respect for the 2016 arbitral ruling and for the international law, just as they had no respect to our fishermen, even water cannoning them, to the Philippine Coast Guard and the Philippine Navy patrols, and recently to the elected senators of this republic. Namimihasa na kayo. O walang iya. Sino ba pumapanig sa kanila sa pang-angkin sa West Philippine Sea? Ang sagot, halos wala. Hindi ang international na batas, hindi ang pandaigdigang komunidad, at lalong hindi ang mga bansang direktang apektado ng kanilang pang-angkin. Ang tinatawag nilang historical rights ay hindi kinikilala ng modernong batas pandagat, at ang pagdidikta sa pamamagitan ng lakas o puwersa ay hindi nagiging katotohanan kahit idaan pa sa pananakot at mapanganib na maniobra. Kahit gaano pa kadami at kalaki ang kanilang barko at kahit idaan pa sa propaganda na walang basihan. Mr. President, we as a nation will continue to assert our rights under international law. Our kababayans deserve nothing less than a government that firmly stands its ground in asserting our sovereignty and defending our nation's interest. Mr. President, I repeat, atin ang West Philippine Sea. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Majority Leader.
Next to sponsor, Mr. President, is our distinguished colleague, Senator Erwin Tulfo.
Senator Erwin Tulfo is recognized to co-sponsor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I rise to co-sponsor Senate Resolution Number 256, condemning the recent public statements issued by the Embassy of the People's Republic of China, directed against Philippine officials and institutions. The question now, Mr. President, is bawal na po bang kondinahin natin ang mga pahayag ng China laban sa ating mga opisyal at mga pinagagawa nito sa ating teritoryo? Isa lang po ang tanong, bawal na po ba? Kasi sa huli ko pong basa, ayon po sa ating konstitusyon, ay meron po tayong kalayaan sa pagpapahayag. There is freedom of speech, Mr. President. And I also want to remind not only the Embassy of China, but other diplomatic missions as well in our country, that in the Vienna Convention of Diplomatic Relations of 1961, it clearly states one of the functions of a diplomatic mission includes promoting friendly relations between the sending state and the receiving state, tayo po yun, and the developing their economic, cultural, and scientific relations. A diplomatic agent shall enjoy immunity from criminal of the receiving state, immunity from criminal cases of the receiving state. He shall enjoy immunity from its civil and administrative jurisdiction with exceptions. Without prejudice, though, to their privileges and immunity, it is the duty of all persons enjoying such privileges and immunities to respect laws and regulations of the receiving state. They also have a duty not to interfere in the internal affairs of the state. Paalala ko po, and I would like to remind all our diplomatic missions to please review the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations of 1961. Mr. President, malinaw din po sa Section 7, Article 2 of the 1987 Constitution that in our relations with other states, the paramount consideration shall always be national sovereignty, territorial integrity, national interests, and the right to self-determination. For years, the Philippines has acted with restraint and good faith. We have pursued peaceful negotiations. We have exhausted legal remedies and diplomatic processes. We have chosen dialogue over confrontation, law over force, and cooperation over conflict. But despite these efforts, China continues to engage in acts that intimidate and harass our fisher folks, endanger our Coast Guard, and question the authority of our institutions. Let me be clear, Mr. President, our commitment to peace does not mean acquiescence. Our preference for diplomacy does not mean silence in the face of bullying. We will not tolerate statements or actions that demean our officials, undermine our sovereignty, or erode our national dignity. There comes a time when a nation must speak with clarity and firmness. And that time is now, Mr. President. It is time to stand for our country, to defend our people, and to assert peacefully but firmly that the Philippines will not be treated as less than an equal. For this reason, I fully and unequivocally support this resolution. Maraming salamat po, Ginoong Pangulo.
Next to co-sponsor the measure, Mr. President,
Yes.
is Senator J.V. Ejercito. Be recognized.
Senator J.B. Ejercito is recognized.
Mr. President, my dear colleagues, good afternoon. Tinuturing ko pong pagtaguyod ng aking sinumpang tungkulin sa ating konstitusyon at sa minamahal nating bayan bilang halal na senador ng Republika ng Pilipinas ang pagtindig at pagsuporta sa proposed Senate Resolution number 256. Mr. President, let me reiterate my position yesterday. Hindi po tayo magpipikit mata at magbibingi-bingihan at lalong hindi po mali ang tumindig para sa interes ng Pilipinas at soberenya ng ating bansa. For the record, dear colleagues, we also want to find a way to restore our relationship and extend once more the hand of friendship to the People's Republic of China. We recognize that this relationship runs deep, not just between our two governments, but between our two peoples. However, any effort to repair and restore this relationship must be rooted in mutual respect as equals, as sovereign members of the community of nations. Mr. President, siguro po hindi nakakatuwa na marinig sa Chinese Embassy officials, sa bagong katatalaga pa lang na ambassador, ang mga salitang hindi magaganda sa ating mga mismong opisyal na tayo po ang host country. Kung ganito po ay dapat siguro ay hindi pa naman natin idideklara person ng grata, pero kung ganito ay sana'y palitan po siya dahil hindi nakakatulong sa tensyonado ng sitwasyon ng ating bansa. Ang ambassador sana po ay dinadaan sa diplomasya para maayos, maging maganda ang relasyon ng China at Pilipinas. Pero kung ganito po, ang pag-uugali at karakter ng bagong ambassador ay hindi po makakatulong sa relasyon ng China at Pilipinas. Mr. President, the arbitral award that was hard-won under the legal framework of the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS, is a fact that international law that no amount of coercion or distortion can erase. And our friends from the People's Republic must come to understand that asserting our rights as a sovereign nation is not provocation, nor is it a duty that will shirk from even in the face of forceful intimidation. Tinataguyod po natin ito para sa mga mangingisdang Pilipino na halos araw-araw hinaharap ang pananakot ng pambobomba ng tubig ng mga dambuhalang barko ng mga dayuhan para lamang makapangisda sa sarili nating karagatan. Para din po ito sa ating po mga Coast Guard na binubuli ng mga mas malalaking barko mula sa China. Kasama po ninyo ang representasyong ito at ang inyong Senado sa matatag na pagtindig para sa bandila, para sa bayan. Dahil ang sa Pilipinas ay sa Pilipinas at hindi natin kailanman isusuko ang ating kasarilan. Maraming salamat po, Ginoong Pangulo.
Mr. President,
Majority Leader.
we have two other colleagues. Senator Raffy Tulfo would like to insert for the record his sponsorship of the measure, as well as Senator Lauren Legarda. Both will insert to the record.
Senator Raffy Tulfo and
Senator Lauren Legarda.
Lauren Legarda.
Yes, Mr. President.
All right, so inserted into the records.
And we'd like to recognize our distinguished Deputy Majority Floor Leader, Senator Risa Ontiveros, to also give a manifestation.
Senator Risa Ontiveros is recognized.
Salamat po, Mr. President. By way of a very brief co-sponsorship and more of a manifestation, gusto ko lang pong i-bring sa atensyon ng lahat ng mga kasama dito sa Senado na nung oras na 3:22 p.m. ngayong hapon, 22 minutes lamang mula nung binuksan natin ang ating sesyon at posibleng bago pa ispinonsor ng Ginoo mula sa Pampanga, Senator Kiko, ang ating Sense of the Senate na resolution, may post na naman ang Chinese Embassy Manila tungkol sa paksa ng ating resolusyon. Ngayon naman, si Deputy Spokesperson of the Chinese Embassy, Guo Wei, sabi niya, echoes do not make a claim true. What matters is whether the argument stands up to scrutiny, not how many voices repeat it. At nirepost nila yung visuals ng 15 senators condemn Chinese embassy's criticism of Philippine officials. Na ang ibig sabihin ng unang linya ng post ni Deputy Spokesperson of the Chinese Embassy Manila, Guo Wei, gaya-gaya lang tayo sa isa't isa, tayong lahat na pumirma so far sa resolusyon. Ang ibig sabihin sa post niya, hindi daw tatayo yung ating pagkondena sa mga pinagsasabi nila bago pa ang araw na ito at hindi tatayo yung ating iginigiit na may karapatan at tungkulin tayong itaguyod ang pambansang interes. At minamaliit niya na halos 2/3 ng Senado ay pumirma nitong resolusyon. Ibig sabihin po, hanggang 36 minutes ago, half an hour before, salita pa rin ang salita ang Chinese Embassy Manila tungkol sa issue na ginawa natin ng resolusyon sa pamumuno ni Senator Kiko. Ganyan pa rin ang tono nila, bastos, walang paggalang. At gusto pa rin nila sila ang masusunod. Hindi lang sa dagat ng Pilipinas, hindi lang sa social media ng Pilipinas, pati sa Senado ng Pilipinas. Kaya sa ganang akin lamang po, Mr. President at mga kasama, yang ganyang consistent na pambabastos, walang pagrespeto, napaka-undiplomatic na stance, sa ganang akin lamang po, ay lalong nagbibigay ng urgency na maaprubahan ang ating resolusyon. Salamat po, Mr. President.
Before anything else, allow me to first associate myself with the manifestations of the principal sponsor, Senator Pangilinan, and the other sponsors and our colleagues. Secondly, yes, we will be perhaps studying the resolution, but in the same light, I suggest that we study the possibility of declaring that particular person a persona non grata. And that is very, very serious when the Senate does that. So I suggest that the Committee on Rules study the possibility. Senator Lacson is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a point of clarification, and I'd like to address this to the distinguished sponsor of the resolution. Did I hear you correctly when you said that you were amenable to holding committee hearings in relation to this resolution?
Well, I was open to the suggestion. I did not actually say I was adopting it.
Thank you for the clarification. And if I may, Mr. Senate President, I consulted ChatGPT. Only the head of state may declare persona non grata when it involves diplomats. So we can only recommend, if we want to recommend. So persona non grata sa Senate. Yeah, but we cannot declare any diplomat persona non grata. Just to clarify, subject to validation by our lawyers in this hall, Mr. President. Thank you.
Well, as I said, it is a suggestion, and let us study the possibility. Majority Leader?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, before we suspend consideration of the matter, I just also want to put my opinion on the matter. I fully support the resolution of Senator Kiko and the 14 others who signed this resolution. Gusto lang namin malaman ng Coast Guard at ating Philippine Navy na hindi sila nag-iisa, na marami sa gobyernong tumutulong at sumusuporta sa kanila. At sa tingin ko, buong bansa, kung magpa-survey po tayo, 90%, Mr. President, maybe 90+% of the Filipinos support our Coast Guard in protecting our islands that have been declared internationally, not just by us, but internationally as our territory, Mr. President, our exclusive economic zone. So when I was Senate President, I echo the same voice as my colleagues here today. I just want to add that voice, that very loud voice, condemning all these acts being done to our Coast Guard and our Navy in the West Philippine Sea. And the fishermen, lalong-lalo na po, hirap na hirap ang ating mangingisda dito sa pangyayaring ito. So we support the resolution, we support our colleagues, we support our men and women in the field, in the oceans, defending our national sovereignty, Mr. President. So maraming salamat sa sponsors, Senator Kiko and all those who co-sponsored. But to give our other colleagues a chance to read and study the resolution, let's limit it possibly, Mr. President, with the permission of the body, on discussions on the floor. Let's just do debates and interpellations. No need to bring it up to a committee hearing and then we'll have an extended firefight in the committees, the committee level. I think the debate can actually be done on the floor. Let us discuss the positions on the floor, Mr. President. And then let us debate amongst ourselves what is the best course forward for our people and for our sovereignty, Mr. President. And therefore, to all our colleagues, maybe some time to study the measure, I move that we suspend temporarily the consideration of PS Resolution 256 that we can take up on another day, maybe tomorrow, and start the debate, Mr. President. And let's act on it the soonest para pakita natin po sa taong bayan ng Senado ay nagkakaisa para sa soberanya ng ating bansa.
Yes,
Maraming salamat.
I think 24 hours is good enough for us to study the measure. Senator Pangilinan is
Yes,
right
just a
now.
very brief manifestation. Mr. President, if after studying the proposal of the Senate President and that the Senate Majority Leader deems it necessary to file a Senate resolution expressing the sense of the Senate that the President should declare the deputy spokesperson as persona non grata, we will support the measure, Mr. President.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Pangilinan. Majority Leader, yes, the motion is to suspend
Yes,
consideration.
Mr. President.
All right, any objection? Hearing none. Consideration is suspended.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, from the topic of sovereignty, now let us discuss the very important topic of education. We have with us here the education experts behind us, including our distinguished former colleague, Senator Sonny Angaros, now Secretary of the Department of Education. With that, I'd like to recognize our colleagues. Which one first? We'd like to recognize the chairperson of the, you're the chair now. The chairperson of EDCOM in the Senate, no other than Senator Bam Aquino, to avail of the privilege hour, particularly in the issue on education and the EDCOM, Mr. President.
Senator Bam Aquino is recognized.
Mr. President, mga kababayan at kapwa ko Pilipino, magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. I rise today to submit the Second Congressional Commission on Education's final report entitled Turning Point, A Decade of Necessary Reform. Alongside this report is the 10-year National Education and Workforce Development Plan, or NATPLAN, 2026 to 2035. Alongside numerous colleagues, we have also filed Senate Concurrent Resolution number 8, adopting the National Education and Workforce Development Plan and the recommendations of the Second Congressional Commission on Education as the 10-year policy framework of the national government for education. And at the right time, we hope that the members of this chamber will support this concurrent resolution. Mula pa po sa unang termino natin, binigyan na po natin ng halaga ang advokasya sa edukasyon. At nung sinimulan po natin ang ating pangalawang termino noong Hulyo, binahagi po natin ang goals ng ating committee sa pag-address ng krisis sa edukasyon. Kasama na po ang pag-address sa nutrisyon, kakulangan ng classroom, kawalan ng textbook at internet connectivity, support for teachers, problems with the learning gap and the curriculum, at saka syempre po ang employability. Matagal po nating painiwala na ang unang hakbang tungo sa reforma ay ang tamang pagtukoy sa mga problema. At dahil po sa EDCOM report, nagagawa po natin ito. Mula po noon, diniin na po natin na ang kailangan ng kabataan at ang ating bayan ay edukasyon at hindi korupsyon. Kaya nais po natin pasalamatan ang ating co-chairpersons, Senator Lauren Legarda, Congressman Roman Romulo, and Congressman Jude Asidre. Kasama rin po ang ating EDCOM 2 commissioners, Senator Alan Cayetano, Senator Win Gatchalian, Senator Joel Villanueva, and our congressional counterparts, Congressman Steve Solon, Congressman Zia Alonte, and Congresswoman Ana Veloso Tuazon. Papasalamatan ko rin po ang ating dating commissioners, Senator Pia Cayetano, Senator Chis Escudero, Senator Coco Pimentel, Congressman Mark Go, Congressman Khalid Dimaporo, and Congressman Pablo John Garcia. Siyempre po, nais rin po natin magpasalamat sa EDCOM team led by Executive Director Dr. Carol Mark Yee, alongside the EDCOM Advisory Council and the Standing Committee members. At siyempre, maraming salamat din sa ating former colleague and former EDCOM Commissioner, now Secretary of Education, Sani Angara, who is with us today. Our Commission on Higher Education Chair, Shirley Agrupis, and TESDA Director General, Kiko Benitez. Isa po sa pinaka-nakakabahalang nailantad ng EDCOM report sa mga nakaraang araw ay ang issue ng proficiency. Ito po ang kahusayan ng isang estudyante, hindi lang po sa pagbabasa o literasiya, pero sa husay sa lahat ng asignatura. Ayon po sa EDCOM, kada akyat ng estudyante sa susunod na antas, bumababa ang kanyang kahusayan. Mula po sa grade 3, kung saan 30.5% ang proficient, bumabagsak po ito sa 0.47% pagdating ng grade 12 o sa huling taon ng senior high school. Out of every 1,000 senior high school graduates, only 4 are truly ready. Nung una ko po itong nabasa, sa totoo lang po, parang nanlamig po tayo. Hindi po ako makapaniwala. Pero sa totoo lang po, ang datos ay datos at ito ang datos ng ating report. At dun po, nakikita natin kung gaano kalala at gaano kalalim ang krisis sa ating edukasyon. Mr. President, pag mababa ang proficiency, apektado ang buong lipunan. Kung hindi marunong makaintindi ng matematika at agham, hindi marunong magbasa at magsulat, hindi rin po sila makakapasok at gagraduate ng high school o ng kolehiyo o makapagtatrabaho ng maayos. Kung matutuloy po at hindi ho natin aagapan ang krisis sa edukasyon, milyong-milyong pangarap ang mawawala at masasayang. Sa ating pong konsultasyon, narinig po natin ang mga kwento ng mga guro. Para sa isa kong estudyante, sabi po ng isang guro, ang kawalan ng kakayahang magbasa ay kawalan ng kanyang boses. Sabi naman po ng isa pang guro na nakausap natin, ang low proficiency nakita niya sa isang bata na kahit sariling kaarawan at edad hindi po makilala. Ang alam lang ang tunog ng mga letrang buo-buo ng kanyang pangalan, yun lang po ang tanging niyang naiintindihan. Ayon po sa EDCOM at sa ating konsultasyon, ang low proficiency rates ay tumutukoy sa malalim na issue sa sistema ng ating edukasyon. These low proficiency rates are indicative of the overall magnitude of our crisis in education. Oo, nagkapandemya, pero aminin na po natin na itong kalagayan ng ating edukasyon ay dahil rin po sa pagpapabaya. Hindi lang po ng isa o dalawang tao, kundi nating lahat. Sa pagpapabaya at maling prioridad na nagdulot po nito. We must face this head on. Oras na po para baguhin ang sistema na hindi gumagana at simulan ang mga solusyon sa mga isyong sumasalot sa ating edukasyon. Huwag po nating sayangin ang oportunidad na ito. Siguraduhin natin na mahusay at mabisa ang implementasyon ng pinakamalaking education budget sa ating kasaysayan at ng mga reformang pinagalaban po natin para tuloy-tuloy ang reforma at pondo, hindi lang po para next year, but for the next 10 years. Mahalaga po, natutukan natin ang implementation ng 10-year NAT plan na nagsisilbing gabay and whole of nation, whole of government approach para solusyonan ang krisis sa edukasyon. Yung NAT plan po isang roadmap at nasa atin po para tahakin ito. Nasa ehekutibo, nasa legislatura, nasa mamamayan, guro, estudyante at mga magulang. Nasa atin po para sundan ang roadmap, bigyan ng tamang pondo at importansya at siguraduhin ang implementation po nito. Sa tulong ng NAT plan bilang gabay, tutugunan po natin ang mga pangailangan ng mag-aaral sa bawat antas ng kanilang pag-aaral. Sa early childhood or kinder to grade 3, sapat na nutrisyon para tugunan ang malnutrition at stunting. Sa elementary, junior high school, maayos na learning environment, address the classroom gap, provide free internet, textbooks at syempre tugunan ang low proficiency rates. Sa senior high school students, TechVoc students sa ilalim ng TVET at mga gagraduate ng college, suporta sa school to employment program. Sa higher education, tamang implementasyon ng libreng kolehiyo para magkaroon ng siguradong trabaho. Ilan lang po yan sa mga priority na makikita sa NAT plan at napakahaba po sa totoo lang ng listahan. Pero naniniwala po ako na may pag-asa pa rin. Kahit ganito po ang nakikita nating datos, meron naman pong pag-asang nakikita din. Unang-una, nakamit po natin ang pinakamalaking budget para sa edukasyon sa kasaysayan ng ating bansa. Of course, headed by our Chairman of Finance, Senator Gatchalian. 1.34 trillion pesos para sa edukasyon, para sa classrooms, nutrition, textbook, libreng kolehiyo, at subsidiya at allowance ng mga estudyante. Malaking panalo po ito para sa estudyanteng Pilipino. Ang mahalaga po ngayon, ang pondo na ito ma-implement ng maayos, sa tamang presyo at sa tamang panahon. Pangalawa, tuloy-tuloy po yung pagpasa natin ng mga reformang kinakailangan. Just yesterday, we passed on third reading the Classroom Building Acceleration Program. Isa pong ehemplo ng pagsasama-sama para sa kabataang Pilipino at estudyanteng Pilipino. Kanina po, nag-uusap kami ni Secretary Angara at sabi nga po, magandang goal ang masimulan ang 25,000 classrooms ngayong 2026. Sa totoo lang po, malaking talon po ito mula po sa 2025 goals. According to DepEd, 99 lang po ang nabuong classroom ng DPWH in 2025. From 99 to 25,000 is a big leap. Pero naniniwala po ako kung tulong-tulong po tayo, kasama ng mga LGU, ng mga CSO, nakatutok ang legislatura, nakafocus ang ehekutibo, kung tulong-tulong po tayo, magagawa po natin ang record-breaking 25,000 classrooms started in 2026. Pangatlo, dahil galing rin po ako sa Iloilo nitong nakaraang weekend sa Dinagyang, nakita ko po doon na ang Iloilo ay isang POC or Proof of Concept on Basic Education Services. Nakwento po nila sa akin. Noong nagsimula po sila, 3 out of 10 grade 3 learners could read. Only 3 out of 10. Kumbaga po, 30% lang yung kayang magbasa. Pero sa partnership po ng DepEd, ng EDCOM, ng Iloilo LGU at ng Sinergia Foundation, nataas po nila ang literacy rates mula 30% to 90%. Isa pong proof of concept na kaya po nating matawid ang napakababang numero pagdating sa proficiency. Nagawa po nila ito sa tamang paggamit ng pondo, kasama po ang empowerment and accountability ng mga LGU at mga komunidad. Nung hinarap na daw po ang datos sa mga mayor at mga barangay captain, nung nakita nila ilang estudyante ang hindi marunong magbasa, ilang estudyante yung laging behind, yung mga mayor, governor, barangay captain, kasama ng mga magulang, ng guro at mga estudyante, nagtulungan para itong 30% learning rate po nila naging 90% literacy rate. Nakikita po natin na mga ehemplo gaya po nito na meron pong mga pag-asa, meron pong magandang kwento, meron pong totoong solusyon ay pwede pong maikalat sa buong Pilipinas, hindi lamang sa isang lugar o isang probinsya lamang. Ito pong mga ang nakikita po natin yung tamang pagpondo, patuloy na pagpasa ng mga reforma, and proof of concepts in different provinces and regions in our country, ito po yung nagbibigay sa atin ng pag-asa na kahit hindi ho maganda itong nasa report, nakikita ho natin na may pag-asa po tayo pagdating sa pag-address ng krisis sa edukasyon sa ating bansa. Lahat po tayo, mula presidente, mga mambabatas, mga LGU officials, hanggang barangay captain, kailangan po talaga magsama-sama at magtrabaho para bumuo ng panibagong solusyon sa mga matagal ng problema sa sistema ng ating edukasyon. Meron na po tayong historic funding. Ngayon naman po ang kailangan natin, historic solutions to our historic problems. At inaasahan ko po, sa bagong yugto, dito po sa 10-year plan na hinahain po namin dito po sa Kamara, huhugutin po natin ang tapang para magawa ang kailangan para sa kabataang Pilipino. Maraming salamat, Mr. President, and we thank our colleagues for their continued support for all of the reforms when it comes to education in the Philippines. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Senator Mamakino, for that EDCOM report. Majority lead, yes, Senator Erwin Tulfo is recognized.
Ginoong Pangulo, mga kasamahan, bilang katuwang sa paghubog po ng kinabukasan ng ating bansa, ako po ay kaisa sa misyon ng EDCOM 2. Ito ay hindi lamang isang komisyon. Nagsilbi rin silang ilaw sa madilim na krisis ng ating sistema ng edukasyon. Sa loob lamang po ng 3 taon na patunayan ng EDCOM 2 na ang pagbabago ay hindi lamang isang pangarap, kundi isang planong may konkretong hakbang. Kaugnay nito, nagtitiwala kami sa maigting na pagbabantay para maisakatuparan ang 10-year National Roadmap na nakapaloob sa Turning Point EDCOM 2 report. Ito ang magsisilbing gabay sa pagpapabuti ng antas ng edukasyon sa bansa. Tayo ay patuloy na umaasa sa mahusay na pamumuno ni Dr. Carol Marquis ng ating DepEd Secretary Sani Angara at sa suporta ng ating mga chairperson, Senator Bam Aquino, Senadora Loren Legarda at sa mga commissioners, Senator Win Gatchalian, Senator Joel Villanueva, gayon din sa patuloy na pagkakaisa ng lahat ng institusyon, mga guro, mga magulang, upang makapaghatid po ng kalidad na edukasyon sa ating mga mag-aaral. Maraming salamat po, Ginoong Pangulo.
Senator Joel Villanueva is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, dear colleagues, nais po muna nating magbigay pugay sa ating dating kasamahan at kasama dito sa EDCOM 2, Mr. President, na ngayon ay kalihim ng kagawaran ng edukasyon, Secretary Sani Angara, sa ating ED, Executive Director Carl Mark. Mr. President, ang unang Congressional Commission po on Education was convened 34 years ago in 1991, and this is in response to the deteriorating quality of Philippine education and chronic underinvestment in the sector. That first EDCOM led to the landmark reform of trifocalization, separating the governance of education among the Department of Education, the Commission on Higher Education, and Technical Education and Skills Development Authority. Mr. President, after several decades, the nation once again called for a second Congressional Commission on Education. This call was shaped by a clear and undeniable reality: persistent learning gaps and the country's weak performance doon po sa mga international assessments such as PISA, which exposed a deep learning crisis in our education system. Nagkaroon pa ho ng COVID-19 pandemic, which further exacerbated these long-standing weaknesses, deepening learning losses and revealing the limits of our education systems in times of crisis. Mr. President, I am so blessed, grateful, and honored to be one of the authors of Republic Act number 11899, or the Second Congressional Commission on Education Act, enacted in 2022 during the 18th Congress, which gave life to EDCOM 2. Since its inception, I have served as one of the commissioners Kabilang po ang aking panunungkulan noon bilang chairperson ng Standing Committee on Technical Vocational Education and Training at Lifelong Learning. The mandate of EDCOM 2 has been clear from the very beginning: to identify priority reforms, establish clear benchmarks, and advance laws and policies that will strengthen our education and workforce development systems. Malinaw po ang direksyon natin noon pa man. In pursuit of this mandate, we did not stop at diagnosis alone. As author and sponsor, we moved for key reforms through legislation, including EBET, or Enterprise-Based Education and Training Act, the Expanded Tertiary Education Equivalency and Accreditation Program, or ETIAP, and the Lifelong Learning Development Framework Act, measures that translate the Commission's findings into concrete and lasting reforms. Mr. President, let me end by saying today, as we rise before this plenary to present the final report of EDCOM 2, entitled Turning Point, a Decade of Necessary Reforms, it is clear that we are at a pivotal moment in our nation's history. This report is the product of 3 years of rigorous study, wide-ranging consultations, and sustained legislative work. More importantly, Mr. President, it is a call to action, from analysis to implementation, and from fragmented initiatives to a coherent and long-term national direction. Panahon na po talaga ng pagkilos. The path ahead will not be easy. Education reform demands patience, sustained support, and commitment that goes beyond political terms and administrations. Kaya nga po ngayong taon na ito, salamat sa ating mga kasamahan dito sa Senado sa pangunguna ng ating Chairperson of Finance, Senator Win Gatchalian, ang Chairperson ng ating Education, Senator Bam Aquino, at mga kasamahan natin dito sa Senado na nagtulong-tulong para mithi natin ang pinakamataas na budget for education sa kasaysayan ng ating bansa. 4.5% of our GDP. For the first time, we were able to hit that mark, Mr. President. And let me say, Mr. President, but the goal that we continue to pursue, an educated, capable, and globally competitive Filipino people, is worth every challenge and every sacrifice that this reform requires. Muli, Ginoong Pangulo, itaas po natin ang antas ng edukasyon sa ating minamahal na bayang Pilipinas. Maraming salamat po and may God bless us all.
Thank you. Majority Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, we'd like to also recognize our distinguished colleague, Senator Sherwin Gatchalian.
Senator Sherwin Gatchalian is recognized.
Maraming salamat, Mr. President. Before I begin, allow me to greet the Secretary of the Department of Education, Secretary Sani Angara, who was one of the original members or original commissioners of EDCOM. In fact, he filed the first resolution to create the Second Congressional Commission on Education. And let me also greet our Executive Director, Edie Caroli. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, it is an honor for me to stand alongside you today and beside our friends and fellow education advocates at the launch of the final report of the Second Congressional Commission on Education. The Second Congressional Commission on Education was established in 2022 with the mandate to conduct a comprehensive assessment of the country's education sector and recommend transformative, concrete, and targeted reforms to help the country become globally competitive in education and in the labor market. In the course of its mandate, the Commission conducted a system-wide review of our nation's entire education system. What it uncovered was a system in crisis. Gaps were everywhere in nutrition, the procurement of textbooks, and the quality of education itself. These compromised the learning of our youth and held them back from achieving their fullest potential. And the implication is clear. If we imperil the future of our young people, we do the same to the future of our nation. The final report of the Second Congressional Commission on Education is entitled Turning Point, a Decade of Necessary Reforms, 2026 to 2035. This is both appropriate and timely. It is a consolidation of the Commission's earlier work and does more than catalog the education sector's problems. It situates them against a long-term roadmap with specific policy recommendations directed at addressing each problem, from early childhood education and development through the basic education to higher education, technical vocational education and training, and the strengthening of the teaching profession. And it accomplishes this while revealing that the gaps are systemic in nature, many of which are rooted in policy design, fragmented mandates, and long-standing institutional practice. These problems cannot solely be resolved by our educational agencies. They need sustained attention and commitment of Congress. In this regard, I place my full support behind this report and urge all of us to treat it as a shared frame of reference, an evidence-based and empirical guide to sustained reform. The heart of this final report is the National Education and Workforce Development Plan for 2026 to 2035. It is the first decadal roadmap for education in the history of the country. It recommends strategic investments in 5 priority industries: healthcare, digital technology, financial services, advanced manufacturing, and tourism. The plan further recommends expanding and strengthening career guidance in schools, accelerating industry-led curriculum development, as well as the Philippine Skills Framework. It also recommends pursuing strategic ladderization of NCs to produce higher credentialed graduates, as well as investing in the training and industry practitioners and improving the retention of returning migrants. Thirdly, the report calls for establishing model polytechnic universities, focusing on higher-level TVET programs that ladder into college degrees, among many other reforms. This report lays down our timeline, 10 years. It is longer than any term of anyone who sits in this chamber today. Hindi para sa atin ang timeline na ito. Ito ay para sa mag-aaral na nagsisimula pa lang sa kinder. Ito ay para sa mga estudyanteng hindi pa nakakapasok dahil sa sakit ng malnutrisyon. Ito ay para sa mga guro na kailangan magdoble ng shift dahil sa kakulangan sa classrooms. It is imperative then that the policies we enact stay the course and keep the systemic nature of problems we seek to address in mind. The quote from the report itself: reforms to succeed, they must transcend political cycles and remain firmly anchored on what learners need, not on shifting priorities. Education cannot restart every 3 to 6 years. Shortcuts and ad hoc solutions will not work. Thinking in silos is a recipe for failure. We have learned these lessons before. That being said, I know that we will all remain true to the long-term mission of restoring our country's education system to its rightful place among the region's best. We have already taken the first step by enacting the highest education budget in history of this country that meets the UNESCO benchmark of 4 to 6% of GDP. The 2026 education budget stands at 1.34 trillion pesos, or 3.4% of the nation's GDP. What remains now is to sustain this level of funding to follow through by ensuring that it goes to the correct educational priorities. Mr. President, the final report of the Second Congressional Commission on Education has indeed revealed the depth of our education crisis, but it also shows us that this struggle is winnable, that this is a crisis we can overcome. Bihira tayo bigyan ng pagkakataong baguhin ang kasaysayan ng ating bansa. Ang panahong ito ay isa sa mga sandaling huhubog sa kinabukasan ng edukasyon sa Pilipinas. Malinaw kung gaano kalaki at kalalim ang problemang kinakaharap natin. Alam na natin kung ano ang dapat ayusin at may pondo na tayo para kumilos. There's no excuse. The rest now truly is up to us. Before I conclude, I would like to thank and acknowledge the entire EDCOM 2 Secretariat, led by Executive Director Dr. Carol Marquis, and the EDCOM 2 Advisory Council for their dedication, guidance, and insight. I'd also like to thank Education Secretary Sani Angara for his steadfast and visionary leadership at the Department of Education. You always do remarkable work, and with your presence and passion for education are pivotal. Your presence and passion for education are pivotal to our success. I also acknowledge my co-commissioners, Senator Joel Villanueva, Senator Alan Peter Cayetano, Senator Steve Solon, Representative Steve Solon, Representative Zia Alonto Adyong, and Representative Ana Victoria Veloso Tuason. Last but not certainly the least, I salute our co-chairperson, Senator Bam Aquino, our chairperson for the Senate Committee on Basic Education, Senator Lauren Legarda, chairperson of the Senate Committee on Higher, Technical, and Vocational Education, Representative Roman Romulo, chairperson of the House Committee on Basic Education, and Representative Jude Asidre, chairperson of the House Committee on Higher and Technical Education. I look forward to continuing our work together. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the final report of EDCOM 2 now stands as part of the record of this Congress. The responsibility to carry its insights forward and make them real in the lives of the Filipino learners and families is in our hands. Thank you, Mr. President. Magandang hapon po sa lahat.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. May I recognize Senator Pia Cayetano, Mr. President.
Senator Pia Cayetano is recognized.
No, si...
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I just wanted to express my gratitude to the entire EDCOM family, from the commissioners, our colleagues, to the Secretariat, of course, to the Executive Director, and to everyone who has made EDCOM what it is today. They have given invaluable contributions that have helped that not just helped craft the bills, the measures that we have enacted, but have basically been the basis of the measures that we have enacted here. And it has really been, it has been able to provide so much guidance. It is a blessing that our Secretary of the Department of Education came from EDCOM, so it was an easy, it was easier for him to implement. We were together with Senator Joel, Senator Sherwin. Sino original natin? Ako. And Senator Cheese. Yeah, we were the originals, no? But when Senator Angara left us, he took with him all these insights that we learned from EDCOM. So aside from the fact that we have so much faith in him, that's already a given, but we knew that we had equipped him with all the research that he would need and he continues to make use of. So I just really want to express this sense of gratitude for all the work that has been done. And I will take this home. Napakabigat. I don't know if anyone has, this is serious stuff. And I'm pretty sure that what is inside is as heavy and as meaningful as the weight it is, the weight that you can feel. I don't know, this is, what is this? 3 kilos? Anyway, it's a lot of stuff. We look forward to the continuation of the work that was started. We cannot stop because learning is a lifelong process, so EDCOM must continue its work. I would like to have more to say. Unfortunately, I wasn't feeling well and wasn't able to attend. So, di na ako mag-iimbento ng insights ko, but rest assured that I will go through this and then I will be posting my observations and my summaries, my own summary of what is contained here, because I think this is very valuable. Thank you, Mr. President. I do believe that our children are in good hands, not just with the Secretary, but with all the work that EDCOM has done. Thank you.
Senator Lorne Legarda is recognized.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, partners in development, fellow Filipinos, 3 years ago, we embarked on a journey to confront the crisis. Today, I stand before you to declare that we have reached a turning point. I rise alongside our colleagues, Senator Bam Aquino, Senator Sherwin Gatchalian, Senator Joel Villanueva, Senator Alan Peter Cayetano, Senator Pia Cayetano, and all our colleagues who have manifested their sponsorship speeches to formally submit to the Senate the Commission's final report, Turning Point, a decade of necessary reform, in the National Education and Workforce Development Plan, NATPLAN, 2026 to 2035. While our diagnosis was unflinching, our conclusion is undeniably hopeful. The crisis in Philippine education, while deep, is neither inevitable nor irreversible. We are not here today simply to catalog what is broken. We are here to present the proof that we have already begun to fix it. We are here to chart a future where the boundless potential of the Filipino learner is finally unleashed. Mr. President, cynicism is easy, but progress, however hard-won, is undeniable. In just 3 years, through the unprecedented collaboration between the executive and legislative branches, we have achieved what many thought was impossible. We have proven that the system can move. We have backed our vision with historic resources. For fiscal year 2026, we have secured a budget through our chair, Senator Sherwin Gatchalian, 1.37 trillion for the education sector, the highest allocation in our history, reaching more than 4% of our GDP, inching closer to the global benchmark. We are no longer just talking about prioritizing education, we are funding it. We have restored equity to our free education. We discovered that our tertiary education subsidy was drifting away from those who needed it most. We acted. Because of our interventions, the share of the poorest beneficiaries, those from 4-piece and listahanan households, has surged from a low of 23% in year 2022 to 61% in 2024. We are putting the public back in public service. We have delivered landmark legislation. We did not just study the problems, we legislated solutions. We have passed 10 landmark laws in record time. As a chair of the Committee on Higher Technical and Vocational Education, and I've learned from many of the previous chairs, we must highlight the specific findings that affect our tertiary and workforce development sectors. For too long, our students have faced dead ends instead of open doors. We found a system rigid in its credentialing, where a skilled worker cannot easily transition to a college degree, and where a college graduate often lacks the job-ready skills demanded by the industry. We found that TESDA's mandate has drifted. Created as an authority to oversee skills development, it has become overwhelmed by its expanded mandate since 1994, as well as with direct training provision, consuming 40% of its budget, while its devolution to local governments remains unfulfilled after 30 years. We found the scholarship system that, until recently, failed to target the poorest, with the bulk of funds supporting low-level qualifications rather than the higher-level skills our economy needs. In higher education, we saw a Commission on Higher Education burdened by an explosion of mandates, 164 new laws giving it additional responsibilities since its creation in 1994, transforming it from a policy-making body into a massive financial service provider. We saw a lack of strategic direction, where state universities and colleges expand programs without a unified national plan, with increasingly duplicated programs with local and private colleges and universities. Against this backdrop, 10 regions do not have a single provider of a program in pharmacy, 13 in dentistry, 2 in early childhood education, and 14 in speech pathology. Meanwhile, In TVET, 14% of our trainees complete bread and pastry making and 15% in driving, as industry leaders lament the lack of well-trained workers in manufacturing, healthcare, and digital technology. These are symptoms of an education system that for too long has not been responsive to the needs of our people. However, Mr. President, this report is not a eulogy for our education system. It is a testament to resilience and the possibility of reform. I am filled with optimism for the future of our workforce. In the 19th Congress, we passed the enterprise-based education training framework, addressing many of the bottlenecks faced by the Dual Training System Act of 1994. This is a game changer. We are opening the doors for industries to be co-authors of our curriculum, ensuring that training leads directly to jobs. We are creating a system where diploma is a passport to employment, not a document of uncertainty. Most recently, the passage of the Lifelong Learning Development Framework Act has addressed this issue. We are building a country where education does not end at graduation. We are creating a system where a skilled worker can return to school, a college dropout can gain certification, or every Filipino can upskill and reskill throughout their lives. We are also breaking down the silos with the creation of the Education and Workforce Development Group, following the joint concurrent resolution advocated by EDCOM, adopted by both houses, DepEd, CHED, and TESDA, are finally sitting at the same table, planning with a single purpose. We're moving towards a seamless system where a student can climb from a national certificate to a master's degree without hitting dead ends. The document we submit today, the National Education and Workforce Development Plan for 2026 to 2035, is our covenant for the next decade. It is a plan anchored on the belief that the Filipino talent is indisputable. Across the world, Filipinos thrive even in the most demanding environments. Imagine what our youth can achieve if their own country finally gives them the support they deserve. This plan is not just a list of targets, it is a promise that we will fix the foundations, ensuring every child is nourished and reading by grade 3. A promise that we will value our teachers, unburdening them from administrative tasks so they can do what they do best, which is teach. A promise that we will align our training with the future, preparing our youth for high-value industries like healthcare, digital technology, and many more. Mr. President, we continue our work not with despair, but with a profound sense of possibility. The window for reform is open. The momentum is on our side. It is up to each of one of us to respond to this call with urgency, fueled by our faith in the potential of our youth as well as the responsibility of our generation to fix a broken education system so that they can fulfill their potential. As stated in the report, and I quote, "We shall fashion the frailty of our circumstances into a ladder that allows us to climb great heights and usher the Filipino youth upwards," unquote. Let this final report be the map. Let the National Education and Workforce Development Plan be our compass. Let our collective political will be the engine that drives this nation forward. The turning point indeed is here. The future can be bright, and the best days of Philippine education are ahead of us, so long as we respond with urgency, discipline, and unity. I therefore proudly submit, together with my esteemed colleagues, the EDCOM 2 final report. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. And also, Senator Mark Villar would like to put his manifestation or insert into the records his manifestation on the EDCOM 2 report.
All right, so inserted into the records.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I'd just like to put on record my elation I found in page 441 of the report, of the committee report of EDCOM, that they had highlighted the municipality of ours in Bukidnon, Manolo Fortich, under Joman Alba and Mayor Quino, very progressive leaders. They're highlighting the example on how LGU-led investments in nutrition governance can produce significant improvements in child health, Mr. President. So we're doing
Very good.
been a feeding program with the children there,
Yes.
and it's been very successful. Together with Del Monte Foundation, I believe, has been supporting them as well as the LGUs. So it shows that every little bit helps. Everyone can help, Mr. President. And I just want to just manifest this short message of mine, Mr. President, for the record. Today I read, unfortunately, I think it was a Facebook story, wherein the grade 7, I think it was one of the recommendations of EDCOM, were saying that the grade 7 levels of reading are not actually being done by grade 7. It's like the grade 7 students, Mr. President, are like grade 5 levels when it comes to reading and comprehension. A lot of that has to do, my dear colleagues, with social media. I just watched the news last night. France is going to start, Mr. President, a ban on social media on children below 16 years old. England is about to do the same, United Kingdom. Also, Australia has already done it. I believe France is also going to do it. Mr. President mentioned France earlier. So there are several countries that want to do it, Mr. President. Maybe it's time to study that option, that we should also ban, because I notice even with my youngest son, Mr. President, the argument every night with my wife is trying to sit him down to read the books that he's supposed to read, the novels that he's supposed to read for his English classes. And it is so difficult for them to sit down in one corner to even just read these books that we used to read, Mr. President, when we were younger. Now everything is 30 seconds. Everything in social media is 30 seconds, 30 seconds, 30 seconds. So we're going to have a generation, Mr. President, the next generation, Generation Alpha, who will not be able to concentrate and be able to solve problems because they just want quick fixes, all quick fixes, Mr. President. Something that we should study further in this chamber. Maybe we could lead on that, Mr. President. I believe these first world countries are doing something right with this ban on social media on children, Mr. President. So I'd like to congratulate EDCOM too on their final report and say a job well done, Mr. President. Therefore, with that, I move that we suspend session for a few minutes to have a photo opportunity with these men and women of EDCOM 2 who really worked hard, all the stakeholders who worked hard to make this happen. And maybe a prayer, Mr. President, a prayer that government will actually follow through with all these wonderful recommendations, comprehensive recommendations made by the committee. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes, we will do so. Again, congratulations. And the session is suspended for 1 Senate minute.
you, Mr. President. Mr. President, may we recognize our distinguished colleague, Senator Raffy Tulfo, to avail of the privilege hour.
Senator Rafi Tulfo is recognized for the privilege hour.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, I speak before you today on a matter of personal and collective privilege. I would like to raise an alarm regarding the continued dredging activities in our country. Di po kakayanin ng konsensya ko na manahimik sa bagay na ito dahil kinabukasan ng ating kalikasan at ng industriya ng pangingisda ang nasa peligro. Mr. President, with almost 10% of the world's coral reefs, large swaths of mangrove forest, and more marine protected areas than any other country, the Philippines is considered the center of global coral ecosystem biodiversity. As such, our coastal waters serve as a source of livelihood of 1.9 million registered small-scale fishers and their families. These small-scale fishers catch nearly half of the Philippines' fish supply. Furthermore, the Philippines fisheries sector generates more than 3.3 billion pesos a year. I cannot overemphasize the need to protect this industry, not just for the livelihood of our fisher folks, but for our food security as a nation. Kaya para na po akong sirang plaka pagdating sa dredging. Ang daming committee hearings at budget hearings na question ko po ang ilang dredging activities. Nagsimula po ito nung lumapit sa aking opisina ang ilang concerned citizens ng Zambales na naalarma sa tuloy-tuloy na dredging activities na sinasagawa sa kanilang bayan. Nasisira po ang kanilang dalampasigan na dating dinadayo ng mga turista. At ang marine ecology ay apektado kaya damay pati ang fishing livelihood. Before the production of bangus and bangus fish fry provided local fishing communities with earnings of at least 5,000 to 13,000 pesos per day for fishers. But the quality of the water and the marine habitat has changed and their harvest has been affected. Ang sinasagawang dredging doon ay protektado ng LGU ng Zambales, kasamang DPWH at naaprubahan ng DNR bilang river restoration noong 2021 pa daw. Pero bakit nasa dagat na ang mga dredging vessels? Bakit naghahakot na lang sila ngayon ng buhangin? Bakit hindi matapos-tapos ang river restoration? Sa tingin ko po, hindi na ito river restoration kasi mismo ang provincial government ng Zambales ang nagmamalaki at nagmamayabang na ang main source na income nila sa kanilang probinsya ay ang dredging at quarrying. Pagkatapos po ng Zambales, sunod-sunod na ang mga lumapit sa akin na reklamo tungkol sa dredging. Sa Mamburao, Occidental Mindoro, pareho po ang kwento. The dredging is allegedly for river restoration by the provincial government to prevent flooding. However, locals report that the dredging is occurring about 1,500 meters from the river mouth in the sea, indicating a different purpose, such as extracting sand for commercial use. Nung inilapit sa akin, agad-agad din naman po napaalis ng LGU at natigil ang dredging. Ibig sabihin, hindi lehitimo ang operasyon. May lumapit din po sa amin na taga Gloria Oriental Mindoro. Ganon din po ang kwento. Fundraising ng LGU disguised as river restoration. Mr. President, ang nangangamba sa mga dredging operations na ito ay ang ating mga mangingisda. But despite the importance of the Philippine coastal fishing sector, they are not protected from these dredging operations. Large-scale fishers' average catch per day has decreased steadily for decades. They now spend more time at sea, going further and further from home for small yields. Mr. President, I fully understand that there are several circumstances when dredging is needed, including the maintenance of waterways for ships,
as well as the cleaning of pollutants in bodies of water surrounding cities. However, environmental groups have flagged that excessive dredging can lead to environmental harm, particularly the destruction of marine life. Kaya nilapit po namin ito, mga dredging activities sa Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources o BFAR. Binigyan namin sila ng mga listahan ng dredging projects galing sa DNR upang alamin kung apektado ba ang mga ating mga mangingisda. BFAR acknowledged that it was often not consulted or involved in the planning, implementation, or monitoring of DPWH-led dredging projects. BFAR reported documented impacts on fisheries, including saltation, turbidity, mangrove damage, and disruption of fishing grounds. After requiring its regional offices to conduct an investigation, BFAR flagged 12 questionable dredging activities in rivers and coastal areas from Pangasinan, Ilocos Norte, Cagayan, Navotas, Zambales, Oriental Mindoro, Occidental Mindoro, Sultan Kudarat, and South Cotabato. In its report, stated the following findings. Number 1, lack of environmental compliance. Multiple dredging projects were undertaken without ECCs or without ECCs being shared with BFAR. Impact on fisheries were not integrated into environmental assessments. Number 2, absence of BFAR clearance. The projects often proceeded without BFAR's letter of number objections or LONO. That's why BFAR was not able to conduct fisheries impact assessment, impose safeguards, or monitor compliance with regulations. Number 3, weak interagency coordination. DPWH, LGUs, and private contractors implemented projects without formal coordinations with BFAR. Thus, BFAR involvement was often reactive, triggered only by complaints or Senate inquiry. And number 4, fisher folks marginalization. Fisher folks are suffering from reduced fish catch, income loss, and increased water turbidity and noise. BFAR said that these impacts were not systematically documented prior to project approval. The problem with our DNR is namimigay lang sila ng ECC. If walang nakatingin, basta-basta na lang nag-i-issue ng ECC, depende sa sinasabing sa magkanong pilak na pwedeng ibigay. Walang genuine concern for our environment. An example is a year ago, the DNR canceled the ECC of a 51-hectare reclamation project in Coron, Palawan. The cancellation was too late because hectares of coral reef and seagrass beds had already been destroyed. A biophysical assessment showed that 27% of corals died, while the remaining corals were slowly dying due to sedimentation. The irreversible damage has been done, and it would take many years and huge amounts of money to rehabilitate the damaged ecosystems, with no assurance that it would be restored to its original pristine state. The same is happening with the marine ecosystem. It will take decades to recover from the damage. In the meantime, the people suffer. We must put a stop to this, Mr. President. Let me highlight the recommendations of BFAR. Number 1, there must be a mandatory BFAR clearance before dredging. Number 2, interagency coordination with DPWH and DNR. Number 3, fisheries impact assessments as part of environmental studies. And number 4, joint monitoring enforcement. My office will look into filing a bill that would establish policies to limit sand extraction directly from beaches and their nearshore zones, prohibit offshore dredging near sediment-starved coasts, use sediment budget studies and shoreline change maps before any extraction is approved, restore reefs and mangroves to help retain sediments and reduce wave energy, And finally, we must engage local communities in monitoring and beach profiling to detect early signs of erosion. And this should not be superficial regulations as being done by DNR. Dapat itigil na ng DNR ang pagiging reactive lang. Dapat po ay proactive. Hindi yung maghihintay lang kung may magreklamo. We have a relatively new DNR Secretary, Secretary Popoy Lutilla. I worked well with him nung sa Department of Energy pa po siya. I hope that he is genuinely for the environment, di tulad nung nakaraang Secretary. That he is protecting our future for the next generation. Because when it comes to our environment, what's done is done. The only remedy we have is prevention. I hope for the support of my colleagues. Thank you, Mr. President.
George Reader, we see the hands raised by Senator Erwin Tulfo and then Senator Loren Legarda. Senator Erwin Tulfo was first. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With the indulgence of Senator Loren Legarda. Pinapahayag ko po ang aking buong suporta at pakikiisa sa mga mangingisda ng Zambales na nagpahayag na seryosong pangamba kaugnay ng patuloy na dredging operations sa kanilang mga baybayin na malinaw po na nakaapekto sa kanilang kabuhayan at sa kalusugan ng ating yaman dagat. Kung papahintulutan po nating magpatuloy ang ganitong mga gawain, wala nang malinaw na pananagutan. Mabibigo po tayong tuparin ang ating tungkulin ay pagtanggol ang kapakanan ng mamayan at ang karapatan ng sambayanan sa balanced and healthful ecology na malinaw na itinakda ng ating saligang batas. Umaasa po ako na tinatawagan ng pansin ang Department of Environment and Natural Resources. Galaw-galaw naman po dyan at kumilos, baka kayo po ay may stroke. Ang dami na po nating mga problema, ang dami pong mga issues. Patungkol po, lately dito po sa Cebu, na gumuho po. Hindi ko po maintindihan bakit pinayagan na magtayo ng isang gusali. Sa likuran nito ay isang gabundok na basura kung saan marami po ang namatay. And before that, Mr. President, yung problema din po dito sa Sierra Madre, hindi pa po nagagawa ng solusyon. Patuloy po ang pagkakalbo ng ilang mga minahan dyan sa lugar na yan. At marami pa pong iba, Ginoong Pangulo. Kaya po, panawagan ko po sa DNR na kumilos na bago mahuli ang lahat. Ganon din po, umaasa po ako sa ating Senate Committee on Environment na matutukan po ang usaping ito. Maraming salamat po, Mr. President.
Senator Loren Legarda is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. With the permission of the sponsor, may I rise to manifest my strong support for the privileged speech of Senator Raffy Tulfo on the continuing problem of illegal black sand mining. And after this manifestation, may I propound some questions. The issue raised involves serious environmental damage, the erosion of coastal protection, the steady destruction of livelihoods of our small fisher folks who depend on healthy nearshore ecosystems. The removal of black sand from coastal and seabed areas destabilizes shorelines, accelerates erosion, degrades fishing grounds that sustain coastal communities. Fishermen experience declining catch and are forced to venture farther out to sea, incurring higher costs and greater risk, while families face income loss and food insecurity. Coastal ecosystems that once served as natural buffers against storm surge and flooding are weakened, exposing nearby communities to greater harm during extreme weather events. Given this impact, the government must be steadfast in ensuring that activities involving black sand extraction are totally prohibited. The environmental and social cost far outweigh any claimed economic benefit, particularly when these activities compromise our food security, disaster resilience, and the long-term sustainability of our marine resources. Accountability must extend beyond private operators. Local government units that allow, tolerate, or fail to prevent these activities within their jurisdiction should be held to account. I therefore support the full investigation, firm legislative and regulatory action to prohibit black sand mining and the imposition of responsibility on all parties involved, including public officials who have allowed these practices to persist. The Senate must act decisively to protect our coastal communities, uphold environmental stewardship, and affirm that our natural resources are held in trust for the Filipino people. So I would like to extend and convey my support to the good sponsor for having brought this to the Senate's attention today, because according to Oceana, an international organization focused on oceans, around 98% of Philippine coral reefs are under threat, and about 70% are high to very high risk due to climate change, overfishing, and coastal pressures, underscoring the need for urgent protection. You mentioned about dredging, we talked about black sand mining, even coral reefs, which are the home, the ecosystem of the fish that our fisher folks catch for their daily needs, is at risk as well. Ako po ay nakikiisa sa inyo sa pag-imbestiga ng lahat ng nagaganap na illegal na dredging o maski legal na siyang nakakasira sa ating ecosystem at nakakaapekto sa kinakain ng ating mga mangingisda. Binanggit din ni Senator Erwin Tulfo ang pangangailangan sa pagsiyasat, gaya ng sabi nyo, bagamat tama ang dredging sa ibang bagay. Of course, riverbeds sometimes have to be dredged, lakes have to be dredged. But what Senator Erwin Tulfo mentioned na hindi lang to environmental aspect, o kayo ba ang nagbanggit? I don't know which Tulfo mentioned this, but it must have a BFAR clearance as well, because it may be environmentally legal, but what if it affects our food from the ocean? So kailangan po ay maliwanag na koordinasyon ayon sa siyensya, ayon sa pagkain, ayon sa hinuhuli ng ating mga mangingisda. I recall there's this group in Zambales. I'm not sure if it's the same group that has been asking you, that has been complaining about black sand mining. I brought it up several times to the DNR, but they claim that the group complaining do not belong to that area or do not own the land, and they said that this black sand mining is part of the dredging operation to improve the ecosystem. So it's not clear to me, and whether the people complaining have a valid legal title to the land is beside the point. Ang mahalaga ay nakakasama ba, at binanggit pa sa akin ng grupong kausap natin ay Chinese vessels daw ang kumukuha ng black sand doon at dinadala kung saan. What part of Zambales is this? Not sure, yes. Yeah. It must have been the same group. So, ang pangangalaga sa ating mga coastal ecosystems, iba pa ang pangangalaga sa ating mga bakawan at ating mga mangroves, ang pangangalaga sa ating coral reefs na bahay ng ating mga isda. Ang dami-daming dapat alagaan, bantayan, and I agree with you that the DNR and the local governments must not be reactive. Hindi lang pag nawasak na, pag meron ng pumasok ng mga barko, pag sinisira na o kinuha na, doon lang mag-iimbestigasyon. It must be protection and prevention rather than curative and investigation. And so, with that, I just ask the good sponsor, ano ba ho ang mga kailangang polisiya, or maybe not a policy, what must we do with urgency so that all these illegal and harmful extraction from our marine ecosystems will stop, so that our fisher folks who are benefiting, of course, from our the food that they gather from the seas will be protected. Ano po ang inyong rekomendasyon?
Thank you, Mr. President. Before I would answer your question, you did mention about a group that came to my office to complain at sinabi po ng provincial government ng Zambales na bakit ka nagreklamo, hindi naman you don't belong here, hindi naman kayo taga rito. Ang pangalan po ng grupo ay Pamalakaya. And itong grupong ito ay very concerned sa ating environment, although some of them do belong to that area and others does not. Pero ang maganda rito, sila po ay isang grupo na mayroong pagmamahal sa ating kalikasan. Now, in answer to your question na ano pong dapat gawin, ang nangyari kasi every time na meron pong mga dredging operations, wala pong coordination ang DNR sa BIFAR. Very important po yun na sana bago magkaroon ng dredging operations kahit sa ang parte ng Pilipinas, it involves dredging sa whether sabihin nila river mouth, and then later on naman, cover up lang nila yon. Ang target talaga nila, black sand like you said, then yung sa dagat na, and then naapektuhan yung mga coral reefs. Dapat merong letter of no objections from the BIFAR. Ang nangyari kasi more often than not, sila po ay gumagawa ng dredging at wala man lang paalam o coordination with BIFAR. At ang masama pa nito, itong mga nagde-dredge, gumagawa ng dredging, black sand, mga Chinese vessels, tama po kayo, at yung mga buhangin natin dito, yung mga black sands dito, dinadala sa China. So kinukuha na nga nila yung West Philippine Sea, pati ba naman yung mga buhangin natin, kukunin pa rin nila. Pati yung mga isda natin, papatayin nila. So it is really very important that BIFAR has to be consulted, and BIFAR needs to inspect and assess kung hanggang saan lang ba pwede mag-dredge yung isang nag-apply ng permit for dredging. Pero ang nangyari sa ngayon, Mr. President, BIFAR is not even being consulted o kahit man lang isaalang-alang nila na sana kausapin, because BIFAR is the lone agency that knows better when it comes to the environment, when it comes to our fisher folks, na kapakanan natin mga fisher folks, and of course, yung mga laman dagat kung sa ika nga nila. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much for that statement. May I add, Mr. President, that reported black sand mining sites in the country would be in provinces but not limited to in Leyte, Cagayan, Pangasinan, and Zambales, according to reports. And it also suggests there is a report that the DNR classified the environment impact study for the Zambales dredging project under a department order way back in 2019 as a non-environmentally critical project. So I'm not sure why the DNR keeps on saying it's a non-ECP, yet research from marine organizations say that dredging at the river mouth may have caused the erosion in those areas. So these were old studies, but it's still relevant up to now. And in May this year, I understand that there was an investigation into claims made by the NICA, the National Intelligence Coordinating Agency, that the sand used, I'm not certain, but this is a report, in China's reclamation projects in the West Philippine Sea may have been sourced from our nation's coastal areas. So I also understand that there's a bill pending in the House of Representatives that prohibits black sand mining. I'm not sure if we have a counterpart here. Just so that we all understand, black sand mining extracts valuable minerals like magnetite and zircon from black sand deposits on beaches or riverbeds, often found near volcanic areas, but this is highly controversial due to severe environmental damage, including coastal erosion, flooding, ecosystem destruction, and land subsidence, leading to widespread illegal operations in the Philippines. And communities suffer loss of livelihood and increased vulnerability to natural disasters. And so I would join Your Honor in an investigation not just with the DNR as resource, but perhaps the Pamalakaya and even militant grassroots organization who know the situation in the far-flung rural areas, especially in marine areas, marine protected areas.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. That's why sa next hearing sa environment, gusto ko pong ipatawag yung mga taga-DNR para we'll conduct an audit as to the numbers of dredging operations nationwide, and if these dredging operations, sila ba ay kumuha ng tinatawag na letter of no objection sa BFAR, kasi nakasad naman sa kanilang administrative order number 2022-02 na sa lahat ng dredging operations dapat, especially kung involved sa dagat, kailangan merong coordination sila sa BFAR, kumukuha sila ng letter of no objection. Now, ang pagkakaalam ko po, karamihan sa mga dredging operations, walang letter of no objections kinukuha ang DNR sa BFAR.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will stop at that because the questions are endless, and I will join you in the hearing. And we would want the DNR and the BFAR to submit preliminarily a list where there is black sand. I only had 4 provinces. Saan pa may availability ng black sand at saan may ongoing legal dredging ng black sand, at ano ang basihan ng kanilang ECC, and what is the impact to our fisher folks and to coastal erosion that negatively or adversely impacts on the fish or whatever catch is available in that area. And perhaps you could also involve or include the UPMSI, the Marine Science Institute, very credible academic institution. So thank you for bringing this up once again. I join you in this shared advocacy. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President.
With the permission of the senators, Senator Lacson is recognized to interject.
Thank you, Mr. President. With the permission of the sponsor and the gentle lady from Antique, very quickly, Mr. President, in other words, triple whammy effect sa ating bansa ito. Number 1, environmental, because nasisira nga yung ating coral reefs and everything. Number 2, economic, kasi yung ating livelihood ng mga fisher folk. And number 3, security, kasi yung kinukuhang sand, kinukuhang lupa, binibigay pa natin sa China para mag-reclaim, maggawa ng mga artificial islands, no? Para andito na lang sila sa tabi natin, tabi-tabi. So I just want to put that on record, Mr. President, for the consideration of the sponsor when he calls for a committee hearing to confront the DNR officials and other personalities involved. It's all driven by greed, Mr. President. No? Hindi na inisip yung, never mind the environment, probably, pero yung security aspect, that's, well, I could say this is tantamount to treason because you're aiding a foreign country which is actually a threat to our national security. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes, Senator Risa Ontiveros recognized.
Salamat po, Mr. President. Just a brief manifestation ng pagpapasalamat sa nag-deliver ng privilege speech, at intention ko pong sumama din kay Senator Loren at sa ating Senate President Pro Tempore na lumahok dun sa pagdinig na gaganapin dun sa speech ng good gentleman mula sa Isabela. Dahil po equally dun sa ecological, economic at saka security consideration. Salamat po, Mr. President.
Thank you. Thank you. Senator Tulfo, the Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that the speech and all the accompanying manifestations and remarks and discussions of our colleagues be referred to the Committee on Environment and Natural Resources and Climate Change. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, so referred.
And with that, we'd like to complete the election of members of the committee so that they can have a hearing right away, Mr. President. Pursuant to Rule 10, Section 13 of the Rules of the Senate, I move to elect the following committee members. For the Committee on Environment, Natural Resources, and Climate Change, on the part of the majority, Senators Pia Cayetano, Senator Erwin Tulfo, Senator J.V. Ejercito, Senator Risa Ontiveros, Senator Wing Gatchalian, Senator Manuel Lito Lapid, Senator Lauren Legarda, Senator Pangilinan, Senator Mark Villar, and Senator Bam Aquino. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, motion's approved.
And Mr. President, upon the instruction of the chairperson, Senator Camille Villar, I manifest the designation of Senators Pia Cayetano, Senator Ronald Bato de la Rosa, Senator Erwin Tulfo as vice chairpersons of the Committee on Environment and Natural Resources and Climate Change. I so move.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
I believe it's only been read now because the chairperson was on maternity leave, Mr. President, maternity leave. And for the Committee on Ethics and Privileges, I move to elect anew the following members of the Party of the Minority. I think they're going to, they replaced the members because of the conflict of interest, because I think the two members that were there, I think, have cases, Mr. President. So Senator Amy Marcos will replace Senator Batol de la Rosa, and Senator Rodante Marcoleta, Vice Senator Joel Villanueva. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, motion's approved.
And I believe the chairperson of the Committee on Ethics, Senator J.V. Ejercito, would like to also make a manifestation on his chairmanship or the committee, Mr. President.
Senator J.B. Ejercito is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Dear colleagues, I rise on the matter of personal collective privilege. Gross neglect of duty is defined by the Supreme Court as, let me quote, the failure to give proper attention to a required task or to discharge a duty characterized by want of even the slightest care or by conscious indifference to the consequences insofar as other persons may be affected or by flagrant and palpable breach of duty. It is the omission of that care which even inattentive and thoughtless men never fail to give their own property. In case involving public officials, there is gross negligence when a breach of duty is flagrant and palpable. End of quote. Would there be a gross neglect of duty if we are faithfully following established rules of this institution? Maring gasgas na sa maraming ngunit nananatiling angkop na sabihin na we are men and women of the law. And as lawmakers, we do our business within the bounds of our rules that govern us. Tayo pong mga senador ay may rules na nagtatakda ng parameters ng mga kapangyarihan na ipinagkatiwala sa atin. Mayroon tayong limitasyon at hindi natin nais na lumabis dito. We have rules and we live by them every single day. Our primary duty, first and foremost, is to craft laws. We are lawmakers and we are expected to be the first to follow the rules, laws, and laws. Noong mga nakarang araw po ay nakarating sa akin ang maparatang na hindi ko raw umano inaksyonan ang mga complaints na na-file sa Senate Committee on Ethics and Privileges kung saan ako ay tinalaga bilang chairperson. I have even received an ethics complaint filed against me in my capacity as the committee chairperson. Sabi ko nga po, everyone is entitled to their own opinion and is free to file a complaint against anyone they feel they are aggrieved by. This is how democracy works. Ngunit para sa hindi pamilyar sa proseso ng ating trabaho sa lehislatura, marahil ay maari talagang mabuong iba't ibang mga haka-haka at akusasyon. You see, the status of the Committee on Ethics is largely due to a chain of events. The change in the leadership from former Senate President Francis G. Escudero to Senate President Vicente Tito Soto III is public knowledge. The internal structure of the Senate was also changed. Some of the officers were replaced and the new ones were elected. Committee chairmanships became vacant and new chairpersons were elected and new members supposedly nominated. Some committees were constituted and went about their business right away. Others, however, were not constituted yet. A committee cannot perform its powers and functions if it has not been constituted. If it proceeds without the benefit of being constituted, the committee risks invalidating all of its succeeding actions. Pwede po ba tayo magsagawa ng mga pagdinig? Maaari nating itong gawin, ngunit ito ba yung nararapat gawin? Wasto ba ito at naayon po sa rules of the Senate? Nakatali po ang ating mga kamay, nakatali po ang kamay ng chairman. Takagapos po tayo sa prinsipyo at patakaran ng ating sinusunod. For as long as it remains unconstituted, the committee is likewise unable to adopt its own rules which shall govern its procedures and all the technicalities that come with it. The rules observed by the Committee on Ethics and Privileges of the last Congress do not automatically carry over to the present Congress. Under long-standing parliamentary practice, each newly constituted Congress begins as a separate, distinct body. Consequently, all committees must first be formally organized and their internal rules must be expressly presented, deliberated upon, and adopted by their members. It needs to be approved and adopted during the organizational meeting of the committee by its members from the 20th Congress. This includes the marking of the case numbers of the complaints filed, which my office has arranged and kept in the order they were stamped received. Sa kasalukuyang estado ng Committee on Ethics, ang maximum na pwede nitong gawin ay tumanggap ng complaint na maaring paningin ng ilan ay minimal. Binabasa at pinag-aaralan natin ang mga complaints na ating natatanggap at binibigyan natin kaukulang aksyon sa sandaling legal ng makapagsasagawa ng mga pagdinig ang Committee on Ethics. Isa lamang po ako sa 24 na miyembro ng 20th Congress. Hindi ko maipipilit kung sino man ang sa aking makasamahan na maging kasapi ng kahit na anong komite. Malaya silang tumanggap at tumanggi sa anumang nominasyon. I understand very well that deciding to be a member of this committee could take some time. Sa committee ito, mas marami kang magiging kaaway sa ating mga kasamahan kaysa magiging kaibigan. Mahirap pumagitna, ngunit tinanggap ko ang hamon. Kung 23 ang kasamahan ko rito sa plenaryo, ito ay lahat sila ay kakasuhan, doble nito at 46 agad ang panig na mabubuo. Sa bawat isang senador na kakasuhan, may isang panig na magagalit at pagtanggap ng komite sa inaing reklamo. Months later, the budget deliberations came and the focus of everyone in this August chamber was to cleanse the budget process and rid it from possible traces of corruption. I strongly agreed to this and I actively participated likewise in the process. Meanwhile, the Committee on Ethics remained unconstituted still because the complete members have not yet been elected in plenary. Sa kasamaang palad po, nung kasagsagan ng pagtalakay at debate sa 2026 budget sa Bicameral Conference ay tinamaan po ako ng sakit. Na-hospital po ko ng halos ilang linggo, ngunit pinilit ko pa rin na natin makadalo sa iba't ibang mga hearing via teleconference. At sa sandali po na pinayagan ako ng ating doktor ay agad ako dumalo sa YCAM. Hindi ko po binabanggit ang aking pagkakasakit upang magdahilan o iabsuelto ang aking sarili mula sa mga bintang laban sa akin. Wala naman din pong magagawa ang aking karamdaman para mapuno ang kakulangan sa kasapian ng Committee on Ethics. Ang gusto ko lang pong bigyan din ay sa kabilan ng pagkakasakit, hindi naman po tumigil ang aking committee sa pagtanggap ng mga reklamo. At kung constituted naman po ang committee ay naaksyonan po natin ang mga complaints na natanggap. At kung naaprubahan ng mga magiging member ng Ethics Committee, akin pong imumungkahan sana na first in, first out policy. It is not my sickness that limited the work of the Committee on Ethics, but its non-constitution due to incomplete membership that can only be remedied during plenary. Before the BICAM of the 2026 budget, the session was suspended and the time ran out. And time clearly is beyond our control in the same very way that a senator's willingness to become a member of the Committee on Ethics is beyond my control. At the risk of repeating myself, I wish to emphasize the Committee on Ethics cannot proceed if it is not constituted. Its constitution is dependent upon the completion of the roster of members. As chairman, I cannot exercise powers that I do not possess and have yet to exist. How can I grossly neglect a duty that is not yet there? Logic dictates one can only give one has. Therefore, I cannot neglect to fulfill something that has not yet been bestowed upon me. To accuse me then of grossly neglecting my duty is also grossly illogical. In being accused of neglecting my duty as chairperson of the Committee on Ethics, I am being pressured to act beyond what is lawful. Is it acting beyond the powers bestowed or delegated in itself gross neglect of duty, our duty to abide by our rules? Is it arrogance and abuse of power? The chairmanship of the Senate Committee on Ethics and Privileges was something that this humble representation did not choose or ask for. It was entrusted upon me by the current leadership of the Senate. Each of the committees has its own chair who facilitates and presides over its business and concerns. No matter how hard or easy such a duty may seem, we try our best to perform our mandate to the highest possible standards one could give. Kung ibang committee ng Senado ay pinag-aagawan at paunahan ang hiling na makuha, walang marahil ay may gusto na pamunuan ang Committee on Ethics. Ngunit tulad ng ibang committee, inialok ito sa isang senador na nakikita ang liderato na pinakaamkop at katanggap-tanggap na humawak nito. Kung bakit akong napili mag-chair ng Committee on Ethics ay tanging si Senate President Soto at kayong mga kasamahan ko na lamang ang makakasagot. I am chairing the Committee on Ethics at the pleasure of all of you, my colleagues, and I could give it up anytime. It is to your trust and confidence that I was elected to such a post, and the moment you lose it, I am more than willing to relinquish. Nais ko pong ipaubaya sa inyo, Ginoong Pangulo at makasamahan, ang kapalaran ng Chairman ng Committee on Ethics and Privileges. I trust your wisdom and expertise in handling such extraordinary situations. I occupy the position as chairman at your pleasure, and I am always ready to vacate the post the moment your trust and confidence fades. Delicadeza is something I value and take pride in. Now, Mr. President, if this august body still wants me to head the Senate Committee on Ethics and Privilege, since the membership has been completed yesterday, I would like to inform the Chamber that we are in the process of reviewing the rules of the committee adopted last Congress. Once we are done with our review, we will furnish everyone a copy of your comments and possible additional inputs. We are likewise preparing to schedule the organizational meeting of the committee where the members, may formally organize and adopt the rules to govern its proceedings, hopefully by next week. We plan to do this with utmost respect for the processes, established rules, and traditions of this institution, in faithful fulfillment of our mandate without any gross neglect of our duty. Maraming salamat po at pagpalain po nawa tayong lahat.
Thank you, Senator J.B. Ejercito. You have our full trust and confidence as chairman of the Committee on Ethics and Privileges.
Thank you, Mr. President. And just a short manifestation in support of our chairperson, Mr. President.
Go ahead.
Mr. President, as the chairperson of the Committee on Rules, I must emphasize that we in the Senate have always operated under a committee system. And this system is bound by a set of rules. This is to ensure that all measures, or in this case, the case of the Ethics and Privileges Committee, are properly dealt with. Kailangan pong maintindihan ng lahat ng nakikinig po na yon, a committee must first have a complete membership before it can be organized and conduct a hearing or meeting. As you know, even to this last minute, we had to change members of the Committee on Ethics. Kaya hindi po mabuo yung committee at hindi po sila makatawag po ng isang hearing. So, let me repeat, kailangan po maintindihan ng lahat ay kailangan kompleto po ang membership ng committee to be organized and conduct a meeting. For the Ethics and Privilege Committee, we did not complete the membership until today, this afternoon. And sure enough, Senator JV is already looking forward to calling for a hearing by next week. I say all of this, rather, Mr. President, to ease the concerns of the committee's chair's supposed negligence as brought about by some complainant. I assure our people that everything has been proceeding in order and keeping with the rules of the Senate. And we trust that Senator JV will continue to uphold the Senate rules as the Ethics Committee is now empowered to proceed with its functions. He is also the best candidate and best person for the job, Mr. President, because he's the reluctant candidate. He didn't want this position from the very beginning, but he's willing to make the sacrifice to make sure that each and every one of us will be following the rules and procedures and ethical standards of this great institution. So we thank him for that, Mr. President. Mahirap pong maging chairman ng ethics. Marami pong tumanggi dito, pero siya, being reluctant that he is, we had to convince him, and he gladly agreed to take the job, especially now that there are pending cases on this issue. We trust him and fully support him, Mr. President. We give him our 100% support. Maraming salamat, Mr. President.
All right, thank you, Majority Leader.
And Mr. President, last item on the agenda, since we already can approve this on second reading with the permission of everyone, including those proponents who proposed amendments, I move that we consider for amendment, Mr. President, Senate Bill number 1509 under Committee Report number 13. So moved.
Any objection? Hearing none, consideration of 1509 is in order.
This is the
the
Philippine-
parliamentary status, Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. We are in the period of amendment, and we are taking up the act establishing the Philippine Geriatric Center for all our super senior citizens, Mr. President. So, maraming matutulungan itong centers na ito. Mr. President, may we
course.
recognize Senator Risa Ontiveros.
Senator Risa Ontiveros is recognized, the principal sponsor of the measure.
Salamat po,
Defeated amendment.
Mr. President. Mr. President, colleagues, the proposed amendments to the Philippine Geriatric Center Bill reflect the valuable insights shared during the interpellations of Senators Pia Cayetano, Rodante Marcoleta, Bongo, Robin Padilla, and Jinggoy Estrada. These amendments ensure that the PGC will not only serve as a tertiary specialty hospital for our older persons, senior citizens, and the elderly, and our aging population, but also function as the apex of an integrated, inclusive, coordinated, and sustainable geriatric care system. They likewise guarantee priority access for indigent and vulnerable older persons and align the measure fully with the Universal Healthcare Law and the Sustainable Development Goals framework. Furthermore, the amendments strengthen the PGC's age-friendly design, leadership and management, service integration, project completion timelines, and congressional oversight, ensuring that this landmark facility is inclusive, responsive, and accountable, and capable of meeting the needs of our rapidly aging population. On Section 2, Declaration of Policy, Mr. President, amendment from Senators Pia Cayetano and Robin Padilla, aligning the PGC with our SDG commitment to achieving health equity, making it future-ready, globally aligned, and socially just and responsive to the urgent needs of the aging population. On page 1, delete lines 6 to 7 and replace with the following paragraph. Towards this end, the state shall adopt an integrated, inclusive, and comprehensive approach to health development in accordance with the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, particularly SDG 3, which seeks to ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all at all ages. It shall uphold the principles of equity and social justice by ensuring equitable and sustained access to quality, affordable, and age-appropriate health services, by institutionalizing a comprehensive, integrated, coordinated, and sustainable geriatric care system, which will facilitate the establishment of a specialized teaching hospital and other geriatric health facilities for older persons and the aging population, particularly those who are poor, indigent, marginalized, or living with chronic and complex health conditions. I so move, Mr. President.
Just a slight clarification.
Yes, Mr. President.
You said lines 6 to 7. Do you mean 6 to 9?
I'm sorry, Mr. President. I do mean delete line 6 to 9 and replace
6
with
to
this
9.
paragraph.
All right.
Yes, Mr.
Any
President.
objection? Hearing none. The amendment is approved.
Thank you, Mr. President. On Section 3, Philippine Geriatric Center, amendment from Senator Pia Cayetano and this representation to ensure that PGC delivers specialized, state-of-the-art care while promoting healthy aging through accessible programs and patient-friendly facilities, thereby upholding dignity and holistic well-being for senior citizens. On page 1, after line 12, insert new paragraph to read, "The PGC shall provide comprehensive health services for geriatric patients, including medical, diagnostic, rehabilitative, and wellness care designed for the older persons and aging population. It shall be fully equipped with state-of-the-art equipment and facilities complemented by adequately trained and competent human resources for health. It shall likewise promote healthy aging through creation of age-friendly programs and facilities. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, the amendment is adopted and approved.
Thank you, Mr. President. On Section 4, Purposes and Objectives, amendment from Senator Pia Cayetano and this representation to strengthen coordination between and among PGC, national government agencies, local governments, and other stakeholders. On page 2, delete lines 4 to 6 and replace subsection B to read, develop and implement a comprehensive, integrated, and coordinated geriatric care system to ensure the delivery of geriatric health, social welfare, protection, and support systems for the older persons and aging population in close coordination with, but not limited to, DOH, Department of Social Welfare and Development, DSWD, National Commission of Senior Citizens, other national government agencies, local government units, and public-private stakeholders. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, amendment is adopted, approved.
Thank you, Mr. President. Amendment from Senator Bongo to explicitly state the complementary role of the PGC in relation to regional specialty centers pursuant to RA 11959 or the Regional Specialty Centers Act. On page 2, line 17, insert a new subsection E to read as follows. Provide a specialty training and technical assistance to geriatric care specialty centers pursuant to Republic Act number 11959, otherwise known as the Regional Specialty Centers Act. Then re-letter the subsections accordingly. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, amendment is adopted, amendment approved.
Thank you, Mr. President. Amendment from Senator Pia Cayetano to encourage shared public and private partnership in the implementation of the PGC law. On page 2, after line 23, insert a new subsection G to read as follows. Foster linkage and alignment with the private sector for public-private partnerships in accordance with existing laws, rules, and regulations. Then re-letter the subsections accordingly. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Thank you, Mr. President. In new section 5, age-friendly PGC site and facilities, amendment from this representation in response to the concerns of Senator Pia Cayetano to ensure that PGC will be compliant with internationally recognized principles on age-friendly amenities and facilities. On page 2, between lines 23 and 24, insert a new section 5 to read as follows. Section 5, age-friendly Philippine Geriatric Center site and facilities. The Philippine Geriatric Center, PGC, shall be designed, constructed, equipped, and operated as an age-friendly health facility that ensures the safety, accessibility, comfort, dignity, and independence of geriatric patients with appropriate support for their families and carers. The PGC shall comply with existing accessibility laws and national building standards and shall provide, at a minimum and as far as practicable, A, barrier-free and universal design features, B, senior-friendly patient rooms, wards, outpatient areas, and common spaces that reduce fall risks and support mobility, orientation, and infection prevention, C, accessible spaces for family members and carers, including accommodation and lodging for relatives and caregivers of patients requiring long-term care. D, facilities for long-term care, rehabilitation, memory care, palliative, and end-of-life services. E, accessible diagnostic, pharmacy, and support service areas. F, areas for health promotion, rehabilitation, mental health, social engagement, and recreational activities, including open spaces such as parks and walkways with trees and greenery. And G, disaster resilient, and climate responsive features addressing the needs of older persons. The Department of Health, DOH, shall ensure continuous compliance with this section and upgrade accordingly, pursuant to internationally recognized principles on age-friendly and elder-sensitive health facilities. Then renumber the succeeding sections accordingly. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none. Amendments adopted.
Thank you, Mr. President. On new Section 6, Organizational Structure and Staffing Pattern, amendment from Senator Bongo and this representation prescribing the qualification of the Medical Center Chief of the PGC. On page 2, line 27, after the word regulations and the period, insert a new sentence to read as follows. The PGC shall be headed by a medical center chief, who shall be a duly licensed physician with demonstrated experience and competence in geriatric care and in hospital administration and management. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none. Adopted. Approved.
Thank you, Mr. President. On new Section 7, coordination with and assistance from other government agencies. Amendment from Senator Bongo and this representation, recognizing the continuing role of the JRRMMC, NCGH, vis-a-vis the program, vis-a-vis, or in terms of the program and service development. On page 2, line 29, after the word DOH and the comma, insert the words, the Jose R. Reyes Memorial Medical Center, National Center for Geriatric Health, JRRMMC-NCGH, and a comma. And on the same page, line 32, replace the word elderly with the words older person and the aging population, so that the new sentence will then read as follows. The PGC shall collaborate with the DOH, the Jose R. Reyes Memorial Medical Center, National Center for Geriatric Health, JRRMMC-NCGH, the Philippine Health Insurance Corporation, PhilHealth, and the National Commission of Senior Citizens, NCSC, in the development, implementation, and continuous improvement of programs and services for the older person and the aging population. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none. Approved.
Thank you, Mr. President. Amendment from this representation clarifying that the Philippine Geriatric Center shall not function as a standalone hospital facility, but shall serve as the apex of a continuing and integrated geriatric care system across all levels of health service delivery, fully aligned with the Universal Healthcare UHC framework. And from Senator Robin Padilla, emphasizing that indigent and low-income older persons, as well as vulnerable aging populations, shall be given priority access to geriatric services, consistent with existing social protection programs and the UHC framework. And also from Senator Pia Cayetano, integrating social welfare and support systems with geriatric care to address the complex need of the older persons and aging population. On page 3, delete lines 6 to 10 and replace with a paragraph that reads as follows. In coordination with the DOH, PhilHealth, LGUs, and relevant health agencies and facilities, the PGC shall ensure the integration of comprehensive geriatric services within the Universal Healthcare UHC framework. This shall include, but shall not be limited to, the strengthening of the healthcare provider network and a functional referral system for geriatric care across all levels of care, from primary to tertiary facilities. The PGC shall likewise ensure priority access to geriatric services for indigent and low-income geriatric patients, older persons, and aging population, consistent with the UHC Act. The PGC, in close coordination with the DSWD and NCSC, shall develop and implement programs related to the social welfare and social protection programs for the older persons and aging population. This provision shall further cover the inclusion, expansion, and enhancement of PhilHealth benefit packages for age-related conditions, long-term care, palliative, rehabilitative, and preventive health services that are responsive to the specific needs of older persons and the aging population. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, the amendment is approved.
Thank you, Mr. President. New sections on public-private partnership, completion of PGC, and congressional oversight. On page 3, between lines 13 and 14, insert new sections as follows. On new section 8, public-private partnerships, amendment from Senator Pia Cayetano and this representation, enabling the PGC to leverage private sector resources and innovation and ensuring sustainable operations and expanded access to quality care for older persons and aging population. On page 3, between lines 13 and 14, insert a new section 8 to read. Section 8, public-private partnerships. The PGC, DOH, and Public-Private Partnership Center, PPC, shall collaborate in pursuing public-private partnerships, PPP, for the establishment and development of geriatric care and wellness facilities, including related infrastructures, programs, and services that promote healthy aging and the welfare of older persons and aging population. The PGC may request the assistance of other national government agencies and local government units in seeking PPPs to ensure adequate support systems, sustainable operations, and innovative approaches in geriatric care. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, the amendment is adopted.
Thank you, Mr. President. On new section 9, completion period of PGC, amendment from this representation, setting the deadline and ensuring timely completion of the PGC in response to the concerns raised that the PGC will potentially become a white elephant project. Section 9, completion of the Philippine Geriatric Center. The DOH, in coordination with the implementing agencies, shall ensure that the PGC is fully constructed, equipped, and operational within 5 to 7 years from the effectivity of this act. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, the amendment is approved.
Thank you, Mr. President. And finally, on new section 10, congressional oversight. Amendment from this representation providing for congressional oversight, monitoring, and accountability to ensure timely completion of the construction, procurement, staffing, and operational readiness of the PGC. Section 10, congressional oversight and monitoring. The Senate Committee on Health and Demography and the House of Representatives Committee on Health shall exercise joint congressional oversight over the implementation of this act, particularly the planning, construction, equipping, and operationalization of the Philippine Geriatric Center, PGC, including the timely completion of its infrastructure and facilities. For this purpose, the DOH, in coordination with other concerned agencies, shall submit to the said committee semi-annual reports detailing the physical and financial status of the project, compliance with approved timelines and project milestones, procurement activities, and any delays, constraints, or deviations affecting implementation, together with corresponding corrective actions. The committees may conduct hearings, site inspections, and technical briefings, and may require the submission of documents and records necessary to ensure transparency, accountability, and compliance with this act. In cases of unreasonable delay, cost overruns, or material non-compliance, the committees may recommend remedial administrative actions, policy reforms, or legislative measures without prejudice to the conduct of audit, investigation, or review by the Commission on Audit, COA, and other appropriate oversight bodies. The joint congressional oversight under this section shall continue until the PGC is fully constructed, equipped, and operational. Then renumber the succeeding sections accordingly. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, the amendment is approved.
Marami pong salamat, Mr. President. And Mr. President, in closing, I thank Senators Pia Cayetano, Bongo, and Robin Padilla for their proposed amendments. With these amendments now fully integrated, we have further strengthened the Philippine Geriatric Center Bill to ensure that it is inclusive, age-friendly, and fully aligned with the universal healthcare framework and internationally agreed upon development goals. I therefore respectfully move that the period of amendments be closed so that we may proceed with the approval of this important measure. And finally, on behalf of the authors of the Philippine Geriatric Center Bill, Senators Mark Villar, Lito Lapid, Jinggoy Estrada, Bongo, Loren Legarda, Erwin Tulfo, Majority Leader Mig Subiri, Rafi Tulfo, and Joel Villanueva, maraming salamat, and may our senior citizens and elders live long and healthier, Mr. President. Majority Leader.
What does the Majority Leader say?
Thank you, Mr. President. Before we act on the request of our dear colleague, may I also be made a co-author of the measure, Mr. President, co-sponsor? I have an author, okay.
You already are.
My two colleagues here also want to be made.
They are already.
Including Senator Legarda?
Yes.
So she asked me the age now of geriatric age. Sabi ko, I really don't know if it's 60 as senior citizen or 70.
Anyway,
Yes, Mr.
Majority Leader, I need not come up with a disclosure because I don't think I will benefit from that law, no?
Yes, that's true.
Mr. President, half in jest, but also because of my inquiring mind, I'm one of the authors, but I don't recall seeing a definition of terms of geriatric. But it's way past the period of definition of terms. You already closed the period of amendments. But when I ask the Majority Leader, I will just tell you later after adjournment.
What he said
What he said
about you and me and Senator Lacson.
No.
about you.
About
Of
me.
course.
I
actually did not say anything, Mr. President. I was just pointing to the direction there. But marami
Mr.
din dito.
Huwag mapipilipat ang dila ng Tabukidnon. That's why I will hold, lest I say something. But the Senate President is always a good sport, and I will tell him exactly what you said.
Actually, papunta na rin kami dyan ni Senator JV. We're on our way. Few more years to go and we'll also be senior citizens. So,
You
yes,
know, there's one thing, one advice I can give you, Majority Leader Senator Subiri. Do not be afraid of old age. Try to reach it.
oh, good words of wisdom. Words of wisdom from our Senate President. But I believe Senator Risa would like to be recognized once.
Senator Hontiveros.
Just a quick point of information, Mr. President, sa point ni raise ni Senator Loren. Tama po sila. There's actually no definition of geriatric dahil ang geriatric po has less to do with numerical age kasi there are seniors in full or practically full capacity of their physical and mental health. Mas po may reference sa geriatric conditions na may kinalaman po sa
So
progressive na
geriatric
diminution
conditions
sa
does not
capacities.
have nothing to do with age.
Actually po, not strictly.
Good,
Salamat po,
because
Mr. President.
there is one thing also that I practice. I do not let the old man in.
Yan, Mr. President. Yes.
No.
All right,
Thank you, Mr.
Majority Leader.
President.
That's why hindi
Di-
alata,
di-
Mr. President, na 65 ka lang. Yes, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move to close the period of amendments. So move, Mr. President.
Amendment. Any objection? Hearing none, the period of amendments closed.
And Mr. President, this is supported by almost all our colleagues. I think this is a very non-controversial bill. I consider this a happy bill for our... Sorry? Who? Asan Pia, of course, we'll also put on record, Mr. President, the request of Senator Pia that she may be made a co-sponsor and co-author of the measure. And with that, Mr. President, I move that we approve on second reading Senate Bill number 1509 under Committee Report number 13.
Any objection? Hearing none, Senate Bill 1509 is approved on second reading.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And last housekeeping measure, I move to suspend consideration. Mr.
LEDAC, yes, it's a LEDAC measure, it's the Majority Leader.
I forgot this is in the list. That's right. Congratulations to
The
all of
LEDAC
us.
will be happy.
Yes, Mr. President. So move to suspend consideration of the measure for third reading.
Consideration of the measure suspended.
And last, Mr. President, on the agenda today, just as housekeeping. Upon the instruction of Senator Ontiveros, Chairperson of the Committee on Electoral Reforms and People's Participation, I manifest the designation of Senator Francis Kiko Pangilinan as Vice Chairman of the said committee, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, Senator Pangilinan is elected Vice Chair.
Therefore,
Actually, it's a designation of the chairman.
that's
Yeah.
correct, Mr. President. With that, Mr. President, no other measures to take up today. I move that we adjourn the session until 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Wednesday, January 28, 2026. Thank you, Mr.
Any
President.
objection? Hearing none, the session is adjourned until 3 o'clock in the afternoon of Wednesday, January 28, 2026.
Thank you, Mr. President.